you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials? Tell me I'm crazy.
Mulder, you're crazy.
I can't. Not as long as the truth is out there. I want to believe.
Welcome to this episode of the X-Files with your hosts Mark and Becky, and we have a special guest in the studio with us today. I say that, we haven't got a studio, it's not true. We got Paul from Chinstroker versus Punter. Hi Paul.
Hello.
Right, and we are talking about Silence of the Lambs. Now, the reason Paul's on is we actually approached. He sent a message out a few months ago now saying, I'm not recording this weekend. If anyone wants me to come on for anything, let me know. And I've always had in mind I wanted him to come on to talk about JFK when we get to covering that in this podcast. So we talked about that, didn't we, Paul, on chat? And then I then said, well, would you fancy coming on for Silence of the Lambs? And he said, yeah, so here he is. Yeah. And we've decided to do Silence of the Lambs. Now, this is for any listeners coming over because Paul's on, because I suspect a few Chinstroker versus Punter listeners might want to listen to this. Just to give you our background, we did start by wanting to cover chronologically every X-Files episode, didn't we, Becky? But, that wasn't enough, was it? That just wasn't enough. And we've decided recently to expand it. So we're watching shows and films that we feel were major influences on the X-Files, and watching shows that have some sort of connection with the X-Files. So, for example, we're working through Kolchak now as well. And this is the first film we're tackling, which we think is an influence on the X-Files, and it's Silence of the Lambs. It's an obvious influence. Chris Carter said it loads of times. So that's why we're covering this. And we'll be going on for years and years going through all of this X-Files stuff, won't we, Becky? It's just, that's how it is. There's just so much of it. We're into season 4 now. We're just about to start season 4 as well. So next time we'll be doing episode 1 and 2 of season 4. But anyway, let's get on with Silence of the Lambs. It's nice to have you on, Paul. We're really looking forward to this. We're really looking forward to this. Okay, Becky, I'm going to hand it over to you. Silence of the Lambs.
So, we're indeed tackling the Silence of the Lambs today, which, as anyone familiar with the United Nations of Horror podcast will know, is one of my personally all-time favourite films. So I'm very excited to be covering it today with Mark and Paul, and we'll be looking specifically at how the film was an influence upon the X-Files, particularly with Scully and Clarice Starling. And the pilot of the X-Files aired in September 1993, and Silence was released 2 years before, so plenty of time, obviously, for that influence to seep into the series. And to provide some context as to how popular and influential, obviously, the film was, it's based on the best-selling series by Thomas Harris, and the novel The Silence of the Lambs was first published in 1988, and it's a sequel to Harris's 1981 novel Red Dragon. And both novels, of course, feature the cannibalistic serial killer Dr. Hannibal Lecter, and he's pitted against FBI Special Agent Clarice Starling. And the novel won the 1988 Bram Stoker Award and the 1989 Anthony Award for Best Novel. Now, I'm sure you've both read the book, haven't you?
I've read the book, yeah.
Oh, I haven't read the book.
Oh, really?
Really, yeah. I'm not a huge reader, to be honest. I'm a complete Philistine when it comes to literature. I read factual books, but not really a massive amount of fiction.
Okay, cool. I have to say, this film's a great translation of the novel. There are a few changes. I haven't read the novel in years, but it's quite a memorable one. It's quite an easy read, isn't it, Becky? It's a very easy read. It's a page-turner.
Yeah, it's one I return to quite often, and I'll say, especially if you read factual books, specifically like true crime, it's written in a very similar style, I'd say.
Yeah, it kind of is. It also reminds me of like Michael Crichton's style. He puts a lot of research into his stuff. So when he's
a lot of facts, that's what I mean. It's very good facts.
Good book though.
Really great, and I think it would have to be. If not my favourite, in my top 3 top adaptations from book to screen.
Yeah, it's a solid adaptation that's faithful, isn't it? In spirit and pretty much in story.
Well, that's high praise. because fans of the book usually aren't fans of the film. The film usually gets a lot of things wrong, doesn't it, in the eyes of the sort of literary fan?
Yeah.
Indeed. And there's actually not that much that's different, is the Mark?
No, in fact, I listened to the commentary, and Jonathan Demme actually says, this was a great story, and I really didn't want to get in the way, and bring my own style on it. I wanted to just pretty much, as best as I could, translate the story onto the screen, which he kind of succeeded doing, and it's kind of refreshing. I also think it's a testament to the story. It's a really well put together story, so that works both filmically and as a book, so there was no real reason to change it. So, it was written that way anyway. People like, I don't know, if you've read like Ira Levin, say, or like Rosemary's Baby or something like that, they're often really favoured because the actual original stories are they got really strong narrative drive. They're not meandering. They're not, this guy thought this for 3 pages. They really get on with it. And when that happens, you can just translate that into a film much more easily. So I think that's the case here.
Yeah, definitely. And the film itself was actually released on Valentine's Day in 1991.
Great first date movie.
Can you imagine? And it was distributed by Orion, obviously no longer in
existence.
What's the word? Existence.
They got swallowed up by one of the bigger studios, didn't they?
Indeed. So they actually wanted to give their main kind of Academy Award contender for the upcoming awards season as much distance as possible between this film, and that was Dances with Wolves.
All right.
And that actually won 7 Oscars, so it worked. But Silence went on to win each of the main 5 award categories: Best Picture, Actor, Actress, Director, and Screenplay. And it was actually the 3rd film ever to do so.
Yeah, it did well.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was one.
And it happened one night as well. From 1935. Yeah.
That's going back a bit. I think this is the first. Was this the first X film to win Best Picture, or was that The Exorcist? I'm trying to remember now.
I'm not too sure without doing a bit of research, but I mean, is this?
It did well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's classed as the kind of only horror, really, isn't it, to have been successful?
Well, the big thing was that it won them all the year after. It didn't win in its own season, did it? Because
no,
I can't remember what it was. Was it Dances with Wolves that season that won the 7 then?
Yeah, so that's why they brought it out Valentine's Day because the award season the awards are given out in February, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's just after the awards or something, or certainly after the voting, right?
Well, yeah, it wasn't eligible basically for that award season, so that's why they released it then. So I think it actually did it a favour. But that, on the back of that, like I said about it being a horror, I mean, do you both class this as a horror? Because I know, Paul, you particularly don't like that genre.
I don't think this is a horror film. I think it borrows heavily from the horror genre in places, sort of stylistically and thematically, and with some of the performances. But I think that it's probably more a thriller or a crime thriller for me than anything else.
I think it skirts it, doesn't it? I mean, in the same way Psycho, maybe. Do you know what I mean? Mind you, Psycho's maybe a little more of a horror film, but it's in that ballpark. I do argue with people sometimes about what is and what isn't a horror film, and I'll give them a pass on Silence of the Lambs. I think it's arguable, but I've argued with people, and then they say, "Well, Alien isn't really a horror film." And you think, well, why not? It's because you like it and you say you don't like horror films. So I get a bit annoyed when people sort of insist certain films aren't horror films just because they like them and they insist they don't like horror films, like Alien. But this one, I'll give anyone a pass on it. I think it can be classed as horror, but I'm not got a problem if it's classed as a thriller, Yeah,
it seems to be a bit of highbrow snobbery, I think, in that regard. And it's used as an argument for both cases. And I personally have said before, because, like I said, I'm really interested in true crime and I really love the thriller genre, but I kind of think that you can argue that is a subgenre of horror, depending on what elements are in the film, how much gore and such. I mean, this is a gorier film than some horror films.
Well, I'm not so sure. I think that a lot of the actual violence happens off screen in Silence of the Lambs, though. You get
true.
You get vague suggestion. It's also incredibly theatrical. I mean, the blood is redder than any person's real blood has ever been, and it's all very sort of. There's a hint of theatricality to it, which takes the edge off it, I think, a little bit. It's not quite as in your face with the gore. It's a lot more subtle with it.
And I think that's why it's edges the horror genre, maybe, because if it were more bloody, it might be. You know, I know there's like blood in it and it's red and so on, but it's not a gorehound kind of film, is it?
No.
A lot of the horror in it is done through pictures, right, or the post-mortems. You know, we've seen people after the fact that we're seeing the devastation of violence rather than the violence itself. Even almost a lot of Hopkins scenes later on, we're kind of not seen the violence. We see the aftermath of it somewhat.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think maybe that was a knowing decision on the part of Demme, because that theatricality, I definitely agree with Paul there. That's like a great way to describe it. Is I think why it was so accepted, especially within the Academy. I think any grittier, any darker, any gorier, it wouldn't have necessarily been considered necessarily.
I agree.
But in terms of the budget, Manhunter, which was released in 1986, Michael Mann film, was based on Thomas Harris's initial novel, Red Dragon, like I said, from 1981. And that was a box office failure. It cost $15 million to produce, and it brought in just over $8.6 million.
Such a great film as well.
Yeah,
I know.
It is a great film. Do you prefer that to this, Becky? I'm trying to remember.
I love them both.
You're not
for different reasons.
You're not committed.
I think they're very different as well. I mean, the first film is very much trying to be realistic. It's trying to show it's much more procedural than Silence of the Lambs is. I mean, theatricality is just as good a word as any. But there is, I mean, there's the set design in the Silence of the Lambs is very sort of gothic horror. You could be in a dungeon, a castle's dungeon somewhere when you're in Bill's house, or when you're in
Lecter's cell.
Cell, and the fact that both their places that they reside are very similar is quite telling in the film as well. But I don't think you can really compare the two. I mean, they're just poles apart as stylistically.
Yeah, it's clinical, isn't it, Manhunter, somewhat? And it's also fairly... there's a lot of sort of unusual music. I like it as a film. In fact, the first time I saw it, I thought, that's a really good film. But it was on a small screen, and I didn't realise at the time it was a pan and scan version. So when I saw the proper widescreen version, it blew my mind how much better it was, and I already thought it was a great film.
I mean, I have a slight issue with the soundtrack, but... It was made in 1986, and, you know, it's Michael Mann, and if anyone that's seen Miami Vice out there knows that synth pop is the way he goes a lot of the time. And I would love to see it rescored, to be honest, because I think it's a film that you could rescore quite easily, and easily add a star to the review value for the film. But I think it's a great film. In preparation for the podcast, reading about Silence of the Lambs, I was amazed to see that it was a box office flop. I've no idea why that would be.
Do you mean Manhunter?
Manhunter.
Yeah, I don't know why it's a flop. Presumably it got a bad distribution, that's all I could think. But weird. Don't know either.
Well, the producer, Dino De Laurentiis, actually lent the rights temporarily, I believe, to Orion for the character of Lecter. For the Silence of the Lambs, because he thought obviously that would be a flop as well. And with a budget of $90 million, Silence made $272.7 million.
Nice.
I read that it was Orion and Gene Hackman that ponied up $500,000 to buy the rights after Manhunter flopped.
Yes, to the book, but I believe, unless I'm wrong, from reading into it, that it was the rights to the actual character of Lecter.
That's weird. I wouldn't have thought that was a thing he could have, but presumably if that was contractually done, that's done, right?
Because Hackman wanted to write it, star in it.
Yeah.
and he had some very strange ideas, and I'm really glad he didn't go through with it in the end.
That would have been a very different film.
Was that about the time he stopped doing films? I think it was Quick and the Dead and stuff like that. He kind of stopped.
Is that with Tommy Lee Jones?
What, the Quick and the Dead?
Yeah.
No, it's Bruce.
So I read that he was
Sam
in
Raimi.
a film with Tom. He was in a film with Tommy Lee Jones at the time. He optioned the Silence of the Lambs.
I believe it was Mississippi Burning.
Yeah, that's right. Because he didn't want to appear in 2 serious roles concurrently, did he?
2 dark ones, because that's a pretty dark film. I think he actually watched a clip at that award season or whatever and decided, actually, no, I don't want to go ahead with this. And allegedly, it was offered to Sean Connery, the role.
Of what? Of Lecter?
No.
Of Lecter.
Connery wouldn't. That's too dark for Connery. I bet he wouldn't.
That's the thing. Apparently, he said he was disgusted.
He was disgusted.
Oh, yeah. Disgusted.
Yeah, just like that. Oh, it's like he's in the room.
But I mean, he's not known for making the best decisions in terms of roles. I mean, he turned down, I think it was Gandalf in Lord of the Rings.
Gandalf. He turned down. The Matrix one, was it? The one that Fishburne did. What's his character? Neo, the other bloke. Morpheus. He turned down Morpheus. Yeah. He kept reading scripts he didn't understand, so turned them down. And then he got League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, or whatever it is, and didn't understand that either, but thought, well, let's go with it anyway, because I keep making bad decisions.
Well, apparently, in a similar way, Anthony Hopkins, when he first was given the script, thought that it was a children's film with the title
Silence of the Wow.
That's just... I hope that was before he read the script.
Well, he takes on darker roles, so I guess it's quite funny. But yeah, so if we come into the plot, FBI trainee Clarice Starling, she's pulled from her training at the FBI Academy at Quantico, Virginia, by Jack Crawford.
Can I just talk about that scene? I think it's a really interesting scene that she's alone walking through the woods. It kind of adds to the theatricality of the film, doesn't it? To me, anyway.
It does, and I think the way that it tracks to the camera, it kind of victimizes her in a way. Which I think is a really I think it's not intentional. I think it's it is. I think it's a way to throw the audience off, and it's a bit of a commentary on the themes of the film, and also the portrayal of women, especially women in this particular role.
Yeah.
Did you not think that it's filmed like? I mean, me saying this isn't a horror film, it's more of a thriller to me. I'm going to say lots of things that back up the fact that it is a horror film now, but the way it tracks through the woods, the way she's running, the music, the way the camera sort of keeps a tree line between itself and her and follows her that way, she could be a scream queen in the middle of a chase scene.
Yeah, could be a final girl, right?
It's very voyeuristic, yeah, definitely. And that's what I mean in the way that it seems to victimize her, but obviously it's that play on that convention.
She's anything but the victim, really, in this film, is she?
Yeah, which I really love, and I think that's a really telling part from Demi. And I believe that the instructor who tells her that Jack Crawford, who heads up the Bureau's Behavioural Science Unit, wants to speak to her, is played by Jonathan Demme.
Oh, right.
Oh, the guy that says, I think we've got a Buffalo Bill type thing.
Yeah, bless him, because he sadly passed away. Was it a couple of months ago now?
Not long ago. Yeah, it wasn't.
Well, Demme makes a point of having almost all his cast and crew appear in little roles throughout his films. Because I remember reading that he would have sort of like the best grip or the best boy appear as like a hot dog vendor in a film, just randomly for no reason, really.
It's cool. There is a few, off the commentary track. I've got a few things about this particular scene. He described this fitness course that she's on, which is the legit FBI fitness course, training course. He said it was called the yellow. They called it the Yellow Brick Road, which is interesting, right?
It's a Quantico, yeah.
Yeah, and also Jodie Foster sort of said that she attended classes, she learned how to shoot, she went to an autopsy, she attended John Douglas's class on the psychology of serial killers, and she said she also, when Demi called her in to sort of talk to her about it, she was aware she was the second choice for the role, but I didn't find out who the first choice was. But what she actually said was
Michelle
Pfeiffer. She seemed she'd be too old. That seems too old.
Not that time. No, I don't think so. But she would have been
worked with Demi, hadn't she? On
what one? Dangerous Minds? No, I think that's something else.
Oh God Almighty! My Swiss cheese brain. I can't remember the thing. It was. I know it was Michelle. Married to the Mob. That's it.
Yeah, I can say that. Anyway, but when she talked to Demi, she was emphasising she wanted to be the female hero. She didn't want to be an imitation of a male hero as a female. She wanted to be a female hero. She made that point fairly strongly in the commentary, throughout the commentary, in fact.
The more you read about the film, the more you get the idea that sort of meeting with her inspired Demi to make this much more of a feminist film than it was originally. Because there are so many sort of comments on the male gaze and how women are treated in a sort of a paternal society and that sort of thing going on in the film that I don't think were originally there until he had that discussion with her.
Yeah, I think you're actually watching it again. I noticed how much there was. I'd noticed some of it. Some of them were very obvious, but there was less obvious ones I hadn't noticed before. So I was watching it this time. I sort of noticed that, and I was thinking about how that informs the X-Files, because Scully gets a lot of that dealing with older detectives, much more explicit as well. And it was kind of cool that thread has worked its way quite strongly into the X-Files. Certainly the early seasons.
Yeah, and Scully's also. It always used to make me laugh that Scully is the ass kicker out the two of them. She's the one that can fight. She's the one that is the first to pull her gun and go in through the door first. And Mulder's kind of always slightly hiding behind her, waiting for her to do her thing.
I remember one episode where, I think it's the one with the killer AI, but I could be wrong, where one of them has to get into a vent to crawl through a system to get to a place, and Mulder just helps Scully up.
yeah.
Amazing. Sorry, Becky, carry on.
No, well, just to add to that, I think that Michelle Pfeiffer would have been much softer in the role, if that's the right word to use.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, though. Cause
I don't want to say more feminine, because it's a hard way to describe it, but I think Jodie Foster just brought a resilience to it.
Yeah, she's got grit.
She looks younger as well. I mean, there's no getting around that. She looks younger, and they needed a more youthful actress in the role just to sell the idea that she's a cadet.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree completely.
Yeah,
that would be my problem, I think, with Michelle Pfeiffer at first, anyway.
Well, I think as well, I mean, this could have been Scully's kind of early formative years. Obviously, she's got a medical background and kind of changed course within the X-Files. But the way that, like Paul mentioned, the male gaze, that we track her not just on the assault course, but the assaultive gaze as well. We pick that up with the camera of all the cadets as she makes her way through the grounds to the behavioural science unit. And as a woman, especially in male-orientated areas, horror journalism, whatever, it can often feel quite intimidating to be the only woman in that area, that field, whatever.
I think that's perfectly understandable. I think if I worked in an area where it was mostly women, I'd be aware of that quite significantly, but mine would be more like, yeah, look at what you can't have.
I've had dreams like that.
Have you?
I'll tell you after.
But yeah, I think it just really, this scene, the opening scene, literally the first couple of minutes, and you really get all of that information is there. And I think that's a great way to open the film. And then as Clarice enters the office...
Can I stop you just before... I'm sorry. She also, just before that, gets into a lift full of cadets, right? All male. Yeah. And they're all taller than her and bigger than her. But she
Every single scene, when she is... There's about 5 or 6 scenes in the film where she's surrounded, literally,
by men.
And they're all 1.5 feet taller than her.
Yeah, it was cool on that. And I like the way she was self-possessed, but we were aware as an act, you know, she was doing a great acting job. We were aware she was aware of this mouth thing, but she was acting like she was fine. You're not fine with it, but it wasn't affecting her in any way. I thought that was a good piece of subtle acting as she stood in that lift.
Yeah.
Anyway,
definitely.
Sorry. Back to you, Beck.
And as she enters the office to wait for Jack Crawford, she takes in all of the photographs of Buffalo Bill, the serial killer who's been killing women and skinning them partially. She takes in all of the photographs, and I thought it was very deliberate that she had to wait. I thought that Jack Crawford was quite manipulative in that respect, and then he enters and they start to have a discussion, and I wanted to ask if you thought that there was any correlation between Skinner and Scully there.
Yeah, I can see that.
I would say that it's quite, because the Skinner Scully thing is that he's her superior at the FBI, but in every other way, she's his superior. So I suppose you if you were in that position, you would make them wait, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, that was touching. I also felt he was aware of what she was doing, and he was letting it all sink in. I think there's a major element in this film of Crawford playing. I nearly said Scully, Clarice, to his own ends. You know, he says things to her like, "Don't let him get in your head," but he's sending her in there, and he knows what's going to happen. Kind of thing. It's like, yeah, that ain't good. He's just salving his own conscience there. That's what I thought. Anyway.
I mean, I remember the bit at the end where he says, "We won't forget you," where he's going to apprehend the wrong person. You kind of get the thought that he would forget her in a heartbeat if he was moving on up the line.
Mm.
Well, that's why I pointed out, because I mean, we get several scenes between Crawford and Clarice, and I do believe he's manipulating her and using her to his own end. Now, that is interesting in terms of the gender politics, I think, because he uses her specifically because she's a woman, and that's mentioned already. It's mentioned by Chilton when she goes in to speak to Dr. Lecter initially.
He's mentioned by Lecter himself, isn't it, when she first meets him?
Yeah.
He says, does he say something like, Jack Crawford sent me a rookie or something like that, or a trainee? It's like, I also think, one thing about this scene, Demi actually mentioned, he said, this is the bit I wanted the audience to appreciate. Clarice is moving from the academic to the real world. You know, this isn't a classroom, this is how things are. So there was that element to this scene too that Demi was trying to put across.
Yeah, but he doesn't show us her in the academic world, really, does he?
No, I think that was a bit, you know, if we'd have seen her in a classroom, just, you know, a 5-second scene would have been enough. But we go straight from the train into this, right?
We do, and I mean, we do get mention of her credentials because he talks about her kind of schooling and how he took some class and she grilled him and he gave her an A, I think it was, and she said A-. So we know that she's, you know, he says you're in the top quarter of your class or whatever. So, but it's very, very evident, the point I'm not very eloquently trying to get to, that he's chosen her, not necessarily because she's right at the top of the class, she's in the top quarter, but because she's a woman.
I think there's a bit of that, and I think he also recognises some of her qualities might interest Lecter. And I'm not sure what those qualities are, other than intelligence, but I've got a feeling, because I don't think, even by the end of the film, there's anything like sexual between them, though they kind of have a rapport.
It feels a little bit more like father and daughter than romantic.
It's all, to me, it's almost like Clarice is the closest that Lecter's come to someone even close to being an equal to him, in his opinion, ever. You know, or since he's been incarcerated. So there's a bit of that too, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I also think, though, we get a great turn straight away here from Scott Glenn as Crawford, because he's so manipulative, and he's into it. If he won't speak to you, just give us a straight up report. You know, what's he look like, what's his cell look like, and such. And there is mention by Lecter later on about Clarice and Crawford, and whether there is an attraction between them. And in the book, it slightly hints at that, but you can't quite tell, because in the book, Crawford's wife is very ill. And we don't get any of that information in the film.
Yeah. The scene where they're both in the helicopter and she sort of leans into him and brushes her hair behind her ear while they're going through the facts of the case, sort of thing, kind of makes me feel like maybe the film did that as well, but it was lost in the edit somewhere.
Yeah, and I don't think it's needed any more than kind of subtle hints at all. I think that works really well. But Stalin then travels to the Baltimore State Hospital for the Criminally Insane, and she is met by Dr. Frederick Chilton even, and there's a fantastic scene there, straight off the back of, as I mentioned, that assaultive kind of gaze from all of her male, the male students that she is training with. We have this scene which is very pointed again, I think, because of her status, because she's a student. It's much more sexually, I don't know whether the word is aggressive, but Chilton definitely makes a play for her and tries to kind of manipulate his position.
Yeah, there's certainly that's going on. There's also elements of objectification, just general objectification, I think. There's a few things here I picked up from the commentary track that Foster said that I thought was interesting. Right, I've already talked about, she considers Clarice like a female hero. She says she did say, Clarice isn't. Heroism isn't standard heroism. It's about being smart. It's not about being strong. And she also makes an interesting point, Foster. She says, of all the people I've played, Clarice is my favourite character. If I could meet them in real life, I'd want to spend time with her, which I thought was kind of interesting. So she likes her own character as such. I thought that was an interesting point too. She also makes the point that she feels that Clarice is scared of one thing, and that is being the victim. She does not want to be a victim, which I thought was a pretty interesting point. Yeah. Sorry, I thought that was an appropriate point to jump in with that, because that's when she said
Yeah. And here she holds her own against him, and I kind of made the connection here between, like Mark pointed out, the way the older detectives, the way they speak to Scully, and some of it sometimes feels like it's just a traditional patriarchal. They're used to working in a male-orientated environment, and sometimes thrown by the fact that she's a woman and she's a professional in her field when she goes into maybe smaller towns and areas. But here, like I say, it was because she's of a lower status than Scully in terms of a career, it's very much more focused. And we get Chilton trying to phase her with the photograph of one of Lecter's victims, a nurse who let her guard down, and he said, this is what he did to her face. And we don't see it, and I think that comes back to Paul's point that the gore is very much off screen, but we get the horrified reaction from Clarice.
Yeah, I was trying to...
Anthony Heald, who plays Chilton, has played some all-time classic slime balls in his career.
He is a proper shitheel, yeah.
He really is a shitheel, and he plays it so brilliantly. And I've seen him interviewed, and he's such a nice guy when he's not playing a character, which I know sounds weird, but you see an actor in so many roles, you expect them to embody that somehow. But he does really. He's so slimy in this film; it's ridiculous.
I really enjoy him. He reminds me of another actor, and I can't think who, but I think he also was in one of the X-Files episodes, but I can't remember which. I think I've seen him in the X-Files,
I'm sure he will have been in the X. I'm definitely sure he will
probably
have been
in a role like this, right? Probably doing something like this.
Yeah, he will have definitely been a slimy bastard in the X-Files at some point.
Did you notice when they were looking at the pictures of the nurse? Now, I wasn't sure. I don't think it was said. I assumed it was a female nurse, but given like the people,
yeah, no, he does. He says they managed to reattach her jaw.
Oh, okay, yeah. Right, okay. Did you notice there was a massive red filter on the film at the point? You know, red. It was a clear red signal.
Yeah, there was. I mean, they stood underneath a kind of an emergency light, aren't they, for letting them know that the door's open and closed, but it is a clever touch.
It is a nice touch, yes. Also, I like the fact that when she starts going down, there's all these weird, like, submarine noises. They sound like a submarine to me, like bings and like radio static or something, which sort of suggests descent as well. You know, you're going in down now, kind of stuff.
Mm. And I think as well, just to show how much stamina she's got, because this would be extremely intimidating for a trainee, and I'm a bit flabbergasted at how she's, you know, contains herself in this this environment. And I love that rebuff when she says that she thinks it's best for her to go in, and she, you know, plays on Chilton's even ego, saying, "No, if he thinks you're his nemesis, Dr. Lecter, then it's better if I go in alone." And he replies and says, "Oh, you could have told me this in my office and saved me the walk down here." And she replies with, "Oh, but I would have missed the pleasure of your company." And I just love that line.
Yeah, she's good at reading people, and she's good at remembering things. There's little touches throughout this film where she just remembers small details about stuff, which I think adds to the sort of our impression of her intelligence, right? And why she's so capable, which mirrors Lecter's own sort of abilities. We get a clear idea that Lecter really has a great memory, great visual memory.
And reading people
as well. Too. So they're kind of mirroring. So. You know, she's not as well developed as Lecter, obviously, but you know, she's got a similar skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I think that is developed very much throughout the series of books and also of films in some respects.
Yeah.
But she goes in alone, and we meet Barney, who pops up again throughout the films.
Yeah.
The same actor, and he's an orderly. And he basically tells her to stay to the right, and she walks through this. Basically, it's just a corridor, isn't it? And like Paul said, it's very gothic. It's like brick, stone. Yeah, and we have all of the cells on one side.
I bet there's not a hospital in America that's like that now.
I bet there is.
Do you reckon?
Oh God, yeah. There was some dark places back in the day where they used to lock people up in asylums that were thoroughly unpleasant and would have been sort of just jails and things like that beforehand that were repurposed.
Yeah, but that looked like it was hewn into a cave almost, didn't it, that one? It was proper gothic.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's theatrical, it's exaggerated slightly, I would say, but I bet you there are places that aren't far off.
Mm. This whole scene, I think, was riffed on with the X-Files in an episode called Eve. I mean, there were other ones, obviously, but there's an episode called Eve where they have to go and visit a psychotic woman in like an asylum, you know, or a mental health treatment place, criminally insane. And there was a lot of riffing in that episode, which we reviewed not long ago, didn't we, Becky? Not too long ago. Actually, it was about a year ago. What am I saying? But I do remember that riffs on it quite a lot. She has the pictures up and all sorts and stuff like that.
Yes, indeed. And for me, this initial interaction between Clarice and Lecter and their bond, how much she comes to rely on him in a lot of ways and understand him, I think, as well, like Mark said, with that kind of mirror image between the two of them, reminded me a lot of Scully's relationship with Luther Lee Boggs in Beyond the Sea.
Yeah, I mean, Beyond the Sea is probably the episode that's most like this film, right? And in fact, my favourite X-Files episode. Over time, it's become my favourite. It wasn't initially, but I just really loved that episode. And yeah, there's a lot of parallels.
Definitely. And then as she gets to the end of the corridor, this is where Lecter's cell is, and he's standing there waiting for her. And very similar, I think, to, not that similar, but riffing on Manhunter maybe. His cell is very bright compared to the others, and he has it's like reinforced glass.
Yeah.
Perspex.
That's so he can't grab any bits to nibble.
Yeah, if it's a bit.
Anyone that comes to visit him.
And he's just standing in the middle of the cell and staring at her as the camera is placed in Clarice's point of view. And the film does that quite a bit, actually, doesn't it? It does take on different perspectives, whereas in the slasher film, and again, coming back to the beginning, as Paul was saying, it does have a lot of elements at the beginning, playing on the conventions of horror. In the way that the slasher film would only show the point of view, really, of the killer, it does flick between Clarice and the antagonist. So that element of, victim and aggressor, again, is a theme that I think is played with.
It is when they meet, definitely, when the two of them meet. I think the rest of the film is mostly from Clarice's viewpoint, isn't it? Apart from the very end, where we get Buffalo Bill's viewpoint, which is very disconcerting.
The thing is that you also get tight close-ups of her. So it's almost all the conversational points in the film are edited, so it's just headshots, and it flicks like a two-shot point of view. So it will be a tight close-up of her face and then Lecter's, and they do that all the way through the film.
Yeah, it's very cool. It basically excludes the bars, right? So it basically intimates the bars are disappearing between them, right? Or the barriers between them have faded away while they're talking. Is that
I'm not sure whether it's this scene or a later scene where she's talking to him in the cell, I presume it was just done with a very good focusing lens or something, because they managed to have his reflection sat on her shoulder, but it's a close-up. It's almost a close-up of his reflection, but her face is in the shot as well, and she's talking to him, and he's just sat on her shoulder, literally talking into her ear for about 2 minutes of the film.
Oh, wow, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I think that's a great shot, and for me, it seemed to be like the devil on one shoulder and the other devil, really, because you've got Crawford on the other shoulder. If you think about it, she's being played by these two characters, because obviously Chilton thinks that he's Lecter's nemesis, but in fact it is Crawford, and they are constantly in a game of wits against each other.
And it definitely it definitely happens at the point where she becomes more accepting of his help. So it is at the point where she's starting to let him in more. It's a great shot. It's a really good shot. Very, very, very cleverly done. Because I don't think I can think of I can think of it's been used since, but not before that.
Yeah.
Have you seen Mr. Robot, the TV show?
No, I haven't seen that.
No.
Because they do that sort of thing a lot in that it's one of these shows where you're not really sure until the end of the first season how many of the characters are in it are actually there and how many of them are in the main protagonist's head.
Right.
And so they will use camera shots where someone's in the foreground and a character's in the background, and it looks literally like they're sat on his shoulder whispering into his ear at times. It's very cleverly done, but that's what it reminded me of in this.
Yeah, I think the use of reflections in this way shows some really great filmmaking. Now, it could be the director, it could be the cinematographer, I don't know, but it's a really clever filmmaking and quite sophisticated. I mean, David Lynch used the techniques in the new Twin Peaks. There's certainly one scene where he uses a reflection in that way, in a very clever way, an ominous way. So yeah, it's a nice technique.
I think as well, I mean, there's some really clever, far more stylistic choices throughout the film, and there's a particular editing choice later on that I'll come to that I'm not aware of having seen in any films before this. So we'll kind of touch on that. But I do think that the film itself, like I said, the formal stylistic elements are really interesting, and we'll kind of pick up on them, I guess, as we go through. But with this scene, with the introduction of Lecter, what did you think about this initial interaction, the way he was presented, particularly when you compare this to the introduction to Brian Cox as Lecter in Manhunter?
Well, if I remember rightly, Brian Cox was kind of just sitting on his bunk, wasn't he? Fairly relaxed. Is that right? It's been so long. Whereas
he's in a bright white cell.
Yeah,
but it is a normal cell. It's bars with a white brick, sort of whitewashed brick background, and he's just sat on a bunk, I believe, dressed very similarly to the way Hopkins is dressed at the end of Silence of the Lambs. He's in a sort of all white t-shirt. Slick back hair, but yeah, it's a little bit more clinical in Manhunter than in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Plus, he is interacting with a man in Manhunter, and the fact that he's interacting with a woman in Silence of the Lambs makes all the difference in the sort of choices he makes and the words he uses, and the fact that he makes her repeat what Mick says to her and then sniffs the air and tells her what sort of moisturizer she uses, and while sort of half complimenting her, he backhandedly sort of says something horrible about the quality of her clothes or her shoes or something like that. There's lots of psychological one-upmanship going on in their first meeting.
There is. I think the actual first shot of him, she walks towards the cell, and he's just standing in the middle of the room staring at her. That's a scary way to meet anyone. Imagine if you went to a job interview and when you go in, there's someone just standing in the middle of the room staring at you. You know,
that's how I greet everybody. I leave the front door open with a note saying, "Come on into the lounge," and I'm just stood in the middle of the lounge staring.
Do you want to see something lovely? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Put it in the drawer, slide it through.
So, yeah, I mean, that's scary initially, you know, the fact he's just standing there waiting. I mean, is he aware she's coming? I guess there's some sounds from down the corridor. So
there is.
Well, yeah, submarine hooter.
Yeah.
The submarine hooter would have been a bit of a giveaway.
Yeah, and there's a chair placed in front of his cell for her.
Oh yeah,
of course there is. Of course there is.
That's a bit of a giveaway as well.
Yeah, that is a giveaway. Yeah. That whole sniffing thing where he recognises her skin cream, but he adds the line, "You're not wearing it today," suggests his senses are super heightened as well. So he's almost supernaturally gifted in, you know, his sensory apparatus is the sort of implication, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and because Paul's not read the book, he's actually got an extra digit on each of his hands in the book.
Wow, I've forgotten that.
Yeah, which they didn't try to
he's like
recreate.
A really quick swimmer.
He's good at playing cards. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet he's a killer at catch.
Well, just in comparison to other actors taking on this role, I love Hopkins. I love the theatricality, a very kind of stylized performance. Brian Cox was great, don't get me wrong. We get a lot less time with Brian Cox than we do with Anthony Hopkins. And Anthony Hopkins, actually, just to point out, with the Academy Award for Best Actor for this role, it was, I think, the second shortest screen time in a film that was awarded the Best Actor award, because it was about 24 minutes. His screen time amounts to.
Oh yeah, he's not in he's only in about 30% of the film, which just goes more towards proving how great a performance it is, that it sort of captivates people's memories.
Definitely. Though from reading the books, I really do love Mads Mikkelsen's portrayal in Hannibal.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's more like the books ones, right? It is more like the books character. Yeah. But
I think I like the slightly camp theatricality of Silence of the Lambs compared to the quite serious sort of post Battlestar Galactica, everything's got to be serious Hannibal.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. But I do appreciate that TV series. The bits I've seen, I haven't seen that much, but I think it's a good alternative. And they're not trying to ape Hopkins, which would be a terrible idea. They're doing their own thing, and that's fine. Hopkins' thing stands alone.
And we have that, the wonderful scene between them both, like I said, the psychological play between them, and he calls her out for what she is and is quite annoyed that Jack Crawford has sent a student to basically try and get that information out of him. And as she's leaving, she's also trying to get information about Buffalo Bill.
I just want to say something about her acting during that scene where he's like basically he's pulling her to pieces, isn't he, basically, psychologically. Great acting from Jodie Foster. Absolutely brilliant face acting.
Yeah, she's a great open-faced actor.
Yeah, I don't think Michelle Pfeiffer...
Michelle Pfeiffer. You can see it all play across her face.
And funny enough, Gillian Anderson's the same kind of actor with that skill set as well.
And again, not that she was a second choice, but they were considering replacing her, weren't they?
What, Jodie Foster?
No.
Gillian Anderson. They did consider replacing her during the season 1. Yeah, we've laughed about this, Paul. There's a character. Do you remember an episode called Fire, where there's a guy who can create fire, and there's a character called Phoebe Green from London? They were going to replace Scully with her, and she's like. She's got the worst over-enunciation you've ever heard. She says, "There are these blokes doing this." And she talks like that. And it's like,
I seem to remember she'd gone to the Dick Van Dyke School of English accent.
But she was English. She's an English actress. So it's like...
Oh, was she?
Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe.
I always thought she was American doing a bad English accent.
No, she's
a Brit doing a bad English accent.
Amazing, isn't it? Amazing.
Oh dear.
And I've seen her in other things. She talks a bit like that anyway, I think. Anyway, we do love that episode, don't we, Becky, for various reasons.
We do.
But yes, imagine replacing Gillian Anderson would have been a travesty, but didn't happen. I think it was after Beyond the Sea, the episode most inspired by this film, that they said, "Yeah, we got to keep Gillian Anderson now." It's like
except for a question, to be honest.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I know that was it. Julianne Moore was considered for the role.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that. Because she went on to play Starling in the sequel, didn't she, as well?
Yeah. And she did a great job.
Yeah, she did.
It was just... It's one of my pet peeves that when they don't bring the same actor back for whatever reason. But, I mean, she did a great job with it. And to be fair, can we do a spoiler alert? Or should we...
What for?
For how the book, the series transpires.
The book of what you mean, the TV series?
No, what happens in the novels between Lecter and Clarice eventually.
Oh, I think we're about
we got years. It's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, because she ends up leaving with him.
She does. It's
so
bizarre.
That's the reason why Jodie Foster didn't want to reprise a role, she said, because she didn't think that Clarice would have done that, and you can totally get that from her performance here.
Yeah, I agree. It's ridiculous.
I read an interview with was it Ted Daly, the screenwriter?
Yes,
Tally. Yeah,
and he said that they were all horrified when they read that. None of them wanted to be involved with the film where that happened because they just thought it went against everything they'd established in Silence of the Lambs.
Well, he's right.
And they didn't in the filmic adaptation.
I can't remember the film. I
She doesn't.
Does she not go with him? Oh, okay.
No. We have a great ending scene in which she's trapped by the hair in the fridge, and she handcuffs herself to him, and he gets the knife out and says, "This is going to hurt." And then we see her with both hands, and he's chopped his own hand off.
Oh, that's quite a good version. I kind of like that.
It is.
But I'd forgotten it. I've got to
say. He's nibbling it at the end.
He's having... Don't bite your nails. Yeah.
That's right, yeah. You didn't know when to stop.
And also, I read that there was a lot of improvisation as well from Hopkins, and that when he mimics her accent, that wasn't included in the script, and that's actually... Jodie Foster's kind of shock at him being rude in that way.
Yeah, that's cool.
The darkest thing I've read about this film is that the guy that plays Buffalo Bill, weird dance he does where he kind of tucks his bits away and pretends to be a woman. That wasn't in the script, but it was in the book. And he'd read the book, and he was so adamant that they needed that bit in it that he just did it. And after they all saw it, they were all really freaked out. But they were like, "Well, we've got to have that in the film because it's dark. It's really dark."
Yeah, it's a funny bit. I do like that bit. Always makes me laugh because they parody it in Clerks 2. Jay and Silent Bob. Jay actually does a sequence where he does that, and it's kind of super funny because you're not expecting it. And it's like, oh my god, it's Buffalo Bill.
Oh well, it's not super funny in
no, it isn't. No, it isn't.
It's really deeply disturbing.
Jonathan Demme said they got a lot of complaints about the nipple piercing because people were grossed out by his nipple piercing.
That's what they were grossed out by.
Yeah,
Oh my god, what is wrong with people?
I don't know.
He's wearing the skin of several women, and they don't like the nipple piercing.
People, right?
So at this point, obviously, she's been dismissed. She didn't get any information about Buffalo Bill.
Oh, no. Oh, there's one bit you forgot. The old... apparently Demme...
Oh, I hate this bit.
Demme wasn't expecting that.
This guy stole all my moves.
Demme didn't know that was going to happen. Hopkins just did it.
Oh, what? Just whip that up for a surprise.
Yeah. So it's like... apparently, this is Hopkins' version of it. He remembers seeing Dracula when he was a boy with Bela Lugosi, and this is his description, right? And this is a misremember. This never happened in the film, but he remembers Jonathan Harker cutting himself with a razor. Well, Harker wasn't in that, it was Renfield, but anyway, cutting himself with a razor and Dracula making that kind of noise and movement, which never happened in the old Bela Lugosi film. All I can think of, he must have seen I think there's a scene a bit like that in the Nosferatu remake, and he must have got him confused in his head.
There's a scene a bit like it in one of the Spider-Man films.
What was that?
The only thing I can think of is Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Dracula, but he did that. That came after. So,
I know, but that's what's in my head now.
Well, okay. I don't want the image of Leslie Nielsen doing that dressed as Dracula. That's equally disturbing.
Oh dear.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but that came from Hopkins.
That gross moment is sort of the ultimate expression of being a woman in a male-dominated world, really.
Being sniffed.
Well, you say that, but what happens just after?
Yeah.
She's leaving after being dismissed, and Miggs, who's in the cell next to Lecter, is pleasuring himself and flicks semen at her, which goes all over her face.
That's the bit I meant.
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about that.
I meant the fava beans bit.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, that's standard Saturday night, right?
I always imagine her walking out to speak to Barney with her hair gelled up like in Something About Mary.
Oh, they should have so done that. Do I look all right, Barney? Yeah, you're fine.
You're fine.
Oh, dear.
Oh, maybe that's funny. Well, actually, I was going to say this till the end, but it's probably a nice place to talk about it. There is a parody of the film. There's a parody of the film called, it's actually a musical, Silence the Musical, premiered off Broadway, and has since had...
off Broadway, no doubt.
And, that was in 2005.
Okay.
I have no idea how that would have...
Is there a YouTube channel or somewhere we can find a video of this thing?
Actually, I'm going to search for it pronto, and I'll post any links if I can find anything, but I would love to see that.
That kind of sounds amazing.
There's bound to be a song that's called something like "Guess Who's Coming to Dinner" or something like that, right? There must be.
Yeah.
But at the moment where the Migs bit happens, you could kind of like slime the audience or something.
Jeez, wow. Well,
Rightly, I tell you.
Speechless. That was speechless. She obviously it's awful, and Lecter has seen this happening, and he calls her back and tells her that he thinks that actor is unspeakably ugly. And he gives her some information, what she wants advancement. He wants to help her out. And he tells her to seek out an old patient of his, Miss Moffat, go seek, look inside yourself, he tells her, and screams for her to go now. It's very theatrical, very dramatic.
Yeah.
And she runs off again, past all of the other people in the cells who are obviously very riled because of what's happened. So it's quite a chaotic, scary scene. But something I've always thought about is, do you think that the film would have continued and gone on the course that it did if that hadn't have happened? Would she have just walked out and that would have been it?
Well, it's just a filming thing, isn't it? It's a way of Lecter apologising to her. He's treated her pretty badly in this, but I think he recognises some qualities in her he kind of wants to engage with. So it gives him that opportunity, right?
I've always thought that he would have called her back either way.
Yeah, me too.
That it's just part of the game, that he sort of dangles the carrot and then pulls it away, and then I shouldn't use the phrase "dangles the carrot" after that scene. But he sort of he turns her down and then gives her a sort of ray of hope, only to sort of dash it again, and he does that a couple of times throughout, where it seems like he's getting on with her, but then he will say something pretty cutting about her appearance or her career or what have you.
Yes, I think he would have as well. But we then get a montage. We get Clarice outside crying as she exits the building, and something that always goes through me, she touches her face, and no matter how much she's washed herself, just the fact that she touches her face while she's crying, puts her hand to her face.
No matter how many times you wash your face, you can't get that feeling of jizz off.
It's like straight home the show.
Well, it makes a change from the moisturiser, I guess, right?
Oh, derailed. But this is quite, we've had a bit of vulnerability from her in the way that Lecter plays with her in their first interaction, but this moment here, we get a flashback to her as a child, and she's waiting for her father to come home. We can see that he's a police officer, so that's where she's it seems that she's taken that course as well, and she's quite upset. Obviously, she's physically shaken, and we get those elements of vulnerability all the way through because, like we said, she is a trainee. Yeah, and not only is she surrounded by, like we said, men, she's the only woman, which is intimidating in itself, but to have just been in that situation.
Yeah.
I always thought it's quite telling that the reason I think that their relationship is more father and daughter like than anything else is the fact that she has that flashback just after her meeting with Lecter, that not just what he said about her father and her background, but the fact that she'd been talking to a father figure.
Yeah. In the commentary track, they actually, I can't remember if it's Demi or Tally who mentioned it, but they say in this film, Clarice has effectively got three fathers, a real father who raised her, Lecter and Crawford, and they're kind of an interplay. Which is an interesting way of putting it. It was interesting that they actually raised that, but then they don't discuss it anymore, so I didn't get any more insight than that from them.
The problem I have with commentary tracks is they're often done quite a while after the film was made, and lots of directors like to sort of retroactively attribute things to their films that I don't think were anywhere near being in their minds when they made the films originally.
Yeah. I think you're right. Post production sort of rationalisation, isn't it, and stuff, or just making himself look better, right?
Or just to fill in the gaps. I did this because I liked it.
Yeah, I did this. Yeah.
But we get then a wonderful Rocky-style montage of Clarice working out, training, studying, researching Lecter, and then she receives a phone call from Crawford, who tells her he knows it's been a hard day. This is all one day.
Wow.
I like the fact that one of the exercises, which I don't know why but was basically she had to stand in the middle of a load of blokes with a big cushion while they punched the crap out of her. I'm like, what is that training her for fuck's sake?
Life. So Crawford tells her on the phone he's just heard that Miggs is dead. Apparently, Lecter was talking to him all afternoon, and then he swallowed his own tongue.
Wow.
Yeah. Very insidious, very sinister, isn't it?
He can kill people by getting into their heads,
it's
right?
a bit of an overreaction to a little bit of friendly masturbation, though, isn't it?
So Clarice has picked up on the look inside yourself reference, which she said is too hokey for Lecter. So again, like I think Mark said, she's reading him just like he's doing her, even though she's not as she's not at his level yet, let's say. And this actual yourself reference leads her to a storage shed, and that's in Baltimore where he's from. And she basically, it's not been opened in years, and she has to fight her way in because the door's stuck.
I love the old man and his driver who won't lift a finger to help her, and he's quite brutally honest about it as well. Oh no, sorry, we don't do manual labour. Basically, do it yourself.
Yeah.
There's loads of examples of real sort of quite brutal misogyny throughout this film.
But she just gets on with it, doesn't it? That's part of the thing, isn't it? She just gets on with it.
Well, I think it's a comment on the fact that women that want to work in male-dominated areas have to grow thick skins, have to ignore or put up with a lot of shit, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, she gives him a business card and says, if anything happens to me, just ring this number. So she goes in and, fair play to her, because I would be terrified. And it's not been open in years. She sees all sorts in there, and there is a car. Yeah. And she actually ventures in and discovers a severed head.
Yeah, in this, it's interesting. In this, they've made it look like a victim place, isn't it? There's all these dismembered mannequins and stuff like that. Did you notice also, was it the car, or there was a big American flag wrapped over the car, wasn't there? It was almost like,
yeah.
And in the commentary track again, I think this is a post-production thing. He says, "Oh yeah, this could be seen as like looking into the dark heart of the America, which was based on a society of violence." And I was like, "Yeah, that's bullshit." I just thought a flag looked good there, right? That's what that was about.
That definitely sounds like retroactive.
Bullshit.
To be honest, though, he does actually say, "Oh yeah, the set designer said let's put a flag in it and look cool." So
I mean, I suppose Buffalo Bill is he speaks with a southern accent, doesn't he? And she's got a southern accent.
And Buffalo Bill is frontier American, name, isn't it? So yeah.
Yeah. Maybe there's some comment on there.
Yeah, maybe. But she finds this head, and she returns to Lecter, tells her that the man is linked to Buffalo Bill, and there's an interesting scene here because what happened to Miggs? He's got, I think all his drawings have been taken away, haven't they? Yeah. Punishment, and they've placed a television outside his room, and he informs her that when she leaves, they will turn it up full blast, and it's like a religious sermon.
Yeah.
Just to kind of play with him. So it's an interesting little scene between them, and he makes the comment about her and Lecter, her and Crawford wanting to find out more about her and push her buttons, and he asks her about any kind of feelings for him. Are you attracted to him? Do you think he's thought about you sexually? Do you think he wants to fuck you? He says. Yeah. And she replies, quite honestly, that's something Miggs would say. And he said, it's not anymore. It's a great little...
Not anymore.
I love the look on her face. And again, you're always coming back to, even though she has this rapport with him and they are very similar in a lot of ways, he does bring you back to that sinister, monstrous core, which I think is where the real horror of the film lies.
In this particular scene, Hopkins described as he feels is like the start of the real relationship between Stalin and Elektra. He called it romantic, but he was hedging his bets when he described it. He doesn't mean in a sexual way, in a sort of a more deep, personal way, I think. He also makes the point that when he was talking to the screenwriter about this, he envisaged Lecter as being like a human version of Hal from 2001. He felt like Lecter had this like machine mind inside him.
He moves very mechanically.
Yeah, so there was that.
In his cell, he moved, and even the sort of brutal scene at the end where he's beating the guard, his strikes are very mechanical. The way he moves around his cell, that's all very sort of robotic. I mean, I think I read that he kind of based the voice on Hal and Truman Capote.
There's a touch of Truman Capote there for sure, yeah.
And Katharine Hepburn.
I could hear that too, yeah. But definitely Truman Capote. And another thing Hopkins said was Lecter, he felt, couldn't stand any kind of messiness. He wanted things to be neat and orderly. Anything that offended him, he'd kill people for if they offended him, which Miggs did, I think. And one of the things Hopkins has said was he hates Buffalo Bill because he knows how he acts towards people. He's the wrong kind of serial killer, I guess. I don't know, but which I never got from the film actually that he felt that about Buffalo Bill, but Hopkins has said.
I think the way he talks about him is quite derogatory, which kind of you can't really speak to the reason why. You're not told, but you kind of just get the idea that he feels like he's superior to him.
Yeah.
That the reason he does his things is there's a higher purpose to it. There's a higher meaning to it than what Bill's doing, because he calls him Billy Boy, and he refers to him by lots of sort of different sort of kind of derogatory nicknames as when he talks about him. And I kind of get the impression that he thinks he's better than him.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was thinking of something from the book. This remind me of something, I think, from Silence of the Lambs, where they talk about how Crawford first caught he caught Lecter because he found war injury book in his study or something like that, and when he looked into it, he saw the bodies in the book laid out like the bodies of a crime spree. Was that in Silence of the Lambs or Manhunter? Red Dragon, I mean. Becky, can you remember?
Red Dragon, and I think that's Will Graham.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's Will Graham. Yeah, it's not Jack Crawford, it's Will Graham. Which, again, speaks to the neatness, and want of order that Lecter kind of craves.
Yeah, definitely. And he, obviously, with that kind of mindset, he offers to profile Buffalo Bill because he is the one in power here, on the condition that he is transferred away from Chilton. I can't say Chilton. Away from Chilton.
Shit Hill. We'll do.
I'll say that away from Shit Hill. And she obviously has that to arrange. And then we get a truly terrifying scene. I think this is the first time we see Buffalo Bill, isn't it?
When it starts off with the girl in the car listening to American Girl with Tom Petty.
Great scene. Catherine Martin, a US senator's daughter, is driving home, singing a little heart out, and she gets home and sees that there is a man struggling to get his couch in the van. Now, before she sees that, we see him with night vision goggles on.
Yeah.
Is it just me? Am I just a more cynical or suspicious person? But, oh man, that guy looks so shady. When when he says, "Oh yeah, just get up into the van to help me with this," Like, all your alarm bells would be going off at once.
Yeah. John Douglas talked about this particular scene, about what the character of Buffalo Bill was all about. And basically, that particular technique was used by Ted Bundy, wasn't it? But Ted Bundy's a good-looking guy, so you'd be more likely to get into a van. Would you? You'd be more likely to get into a van with a good-looking guy, I would assume.
This girl is portrayed as so dumb that he could have had a plate with a pile of sweets on it and an arrow with 3 sweets written on the arrow, and she'd have gone for them. Maybe with a net suspended above, Wile E. Coyote style.
Yeah, she's. It's interesting. She's not a likable character, is she? Even to the end.
But she's another. She's another person that she's another female character in the film that doesn't really become a victim. I mean, she's trying to escape. She obviously displays fear, but she never sort of completely crumbles under the. I mean, she's trying to escape right up until the end.
Yeah, I kind of like her because of that, but it's the fact that like she just doesn't. She never complies. You're right. She never complies to the victim sort of stereotype, does she?
No.
John Douglas also said that this Buffalo Bill was a composite of 3 different killers. Ted Bundy, we've already mentioned. A guy called Garrett, and Becky, you jump in here because you probably know way more about this than me.
Stealing all my notes.
In that case, I'll shut up because I don't want to steal your notes. Carry on.
Well, just coming back to Ted Bundy, like he used many different ruses and all sorts. Yeah. One of them was that he was injured, and some people didn't, fall for it. I mean, some people literally just got into the car because he was a good-looking guy, which is people who have since survived, which is quite scary to hear their testimonies and that. But if anybody interested in learning a bit more about Bundy, Robert Cappell's books are amazing. He was basically placed on the Ted murders, as people call them, just a week after he was assigned a new role as a homicide detective. So he was corresponding with him.
Bundy was his first case.
Yeah, and he built up a bit of a rapport with him. He continued a kind of correspondence with him from the time of his initial imprisonment because Bundy actually escaped.
That is mental.
Yeah, and they caught him again. Actually, they only caught him the first time because of his very silly mistake. So it's a really interesting story. But right through to his execution in 1989, he did actually consult him to build his profile of the Green River Killer, who was, I believe, the Green River Killer was at large when the film was released, and John Douglas, who worked as a consultant on the film, was actively looking for the Green River Killer.
Wow.
That's creepy.
Yeah, and Keppel got Bundy to confess to several unsolved murders leading up to his execution. So I'll post a few podcasts, documentaries, as well as links to the books in the Facebook group. But the other obvious one will be Ed Gein.
Ed Gein made lamps out of skin, didn't he?
Skin suits as well.
Yes. Indeed, and that's the more famous one. I mean, obviously, you got Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all sort of Psycho, that have been influenced by Gein. Yeah. But the third one was Gary Heidnik, who actually kept the women that he kidnapped in a pit in his basement.
Oh, this is so grim. I read a little about this. Oh, go ahead.
So he was an American serial killer who kidnapped, tortured, and raped 6 women and held them prisoner in his basement. And he was actually sentenced to death and executed by lethal injection in 1999. But there's been all sorts. His wife accused him of spousal rape, involuntary deviant sexual intercourse. He said that his girlfriend's sister, he kept her in prisoner in a locked storage room in his basement in 1978, and she was actually out of a mental institution on day leave. And when she was found and returned to the hospital, she had been raped, sodomized, and contracted gonorrhea.
Oh, he's a charmer.
And that was just the start of it, and it just goes on and on and on. And there was a rumour of cannibalism as well, but there was no evidence that he had actually eaten human flesh.
I got this from John Douglas commentary track. This is what he said about him. And if anyone's listening is eating, stop this podcast.
Depends what they're eating.
Yeah, it depends what. If you're eating mince, stop this podcast. Yeah, apparently, I mean, John Douglas said, he had a pit like Buffalo Bill has, right? But he filled it with water, and the victims were in water, and then he passed down an electric wire to electrocute them, and then if he killed them, he ground them up and fed the result to the other victims. So this is so gross.
But kind of, I mean, it's good that he's recycling.
Oh dear. Anyway.
Yeah. So, but I believe that there wasn't any evidence of that.
Oh, this is from John Douglas, so I assume that was true, or it was proved. So, I hadn't read this. I heard it from John Douglas on the commentary track. And it was like, oh man, I'm glad I'm not eating. Mind you, not that I'll sit there and watch Silent and munch on a burger or something. Yeah,
it's only like Soylent Green, isn't it?
Soylent Green, yeah. True.
Oh, wow. Basically, he's an amalgamation of all three of those serial killers. And we get another victim that's found in Clay County, West Virginia. The body's been in the water for a week, and Clarice is invited by Crawford to accompany him to process the remains. And we basically get a really, I think, an important scene when she arrives at the funeral home. And again, she, like you've pointed out before, is in the middle of a group of towering men, law enforcement, and really interestingly, and again, another manipulative use of her. And maybe the main reason he brought her, not just to teach her, is because, as we've encountered before, Mark, in our discussion of Twin Peaks and such, there is often a territorial sense of unease between local law enforcement and international.
Yeah.
And it appears that he uses her by saying to the sheriff, let's go and talk away from the woman. And it gives them a rapport.
Yeah.
So now, apparently in real life, the local police are always happy to have federal help because they're stretched. It's this sort of tension between the two is purely a screenwriter's fabrication.
Ah, that's interesting because it feels authentic, doesn't it? I mean, because we're used to the fabrication.
Because it goes back to sort of 70s cop shows. They used to have the sort of fear of the feds coming in and taking over the case. And when in reality, they have so much work to do that if somebody wants to come in and take over a case, that's great.
Oh, well, that's worth knowing.
Definitely.
I did find this interesting in that I felt that the deputies were actively quite surly. They weren't just passively.
But I love how she meets their stairs.
It's really good. Great piece of acting again.
And the fact that he kind of uses her as an excuse to get them out of the room is pretty shitty, really. But she does say, she makes the point later, doesn't she, that even though, as he says, it was just a sort of a ploy to get them out of the room, it still matters. It matters because it comes from their superior and they looked to him as how to behave to her.
Yeah, it's also a fact of like she doesn't want to be a victim, but she also respects other victims, their dignity, right? I mean, it's her. This is personal. This bit to her, I think.
Well, she goes into the funeral parlour part of because they're in a small town. Obviously, I suppose the mortuary and the funeral home are all one thing.
Yeah.
But she sees her father lying in the coffin, doesn't she?
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
Is that what happens? I'm sure that's what happens. Maybe I've imagined that.
No, that's it. She has another flashback.
Didn't realise.
So it seems to be that this is bringing up trauma for her as well. Yeah,
it informs her character very nicely.
It's a small town thing as well, isn't it? I suppose the sort of the little bit you see of her with her dad, she's definitely in that kind of small town environment, and he's a small town sheriff. So going back to that sort of environment, I suppose, heightens everything for the character.
Definitely, and I think, and this is something that Lecter points to in a very informed reading of her, that no matter how much she's got all the way out to the FBI, he says to her, because from her small town roots, not more than one generation away from poor white trash, he says to her, and she's built up all of this for herself. She's doing so well, and that one tiny bit of treatment from Crawford just strips away all of that, that she's accomplished, and it brings her straight back to those kind of traumatic roots. So it's a really, really important, interesting scene. And then we get her process in the body, and she actually asks all of the, because then that's the other thing, like Paul said, that the resources will be stretched so thin, but there seems to be like a million different officers just standing around.
Yeah, this town has got 20 cops in it for some reason.
Yeah,
I imagine half of them are probably voluntary as well. But
that scene reminds me of the scene in JFK when they're examining the president's body, and they're all shoulder to shoulder, and there's generals and admirals and police and FBI, and nobody knows who's in charge. And
you can kind of understand it, though.
They probably needed a woman to tell them all to get out.
Keep the president's dignity, yeah.
But it's the fact that this is a female victim, I think, and she's a woman, and she says, you've done so much for her now, but we need to take care of her. And it's that respect. She never loses sight of the fact that this victim is a person. I think that's what Matt picked up on, and that's really obvious. And she touches on things that maybe if it was just the men in the room, they would have missed, like, the glitter nail polish is not local, the way that eraser pierced, things like that.
I also think that I always read that scene as her being manipulative. She is using her gender and the gender of the victim the way she talks about the victim appeals to the sort of it could be your sister, it could be your mother type feelings in the cops, the way she personalizes it. But she's using the fact that she's a woman and the victim is a woman to clear the room, essentially.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. But I also think this really does plug into her quite a bit. I think this isn't bullshit she's saying. I think she really believes it, but she's figured out a way to do something. Yeah.
It's a good example of how it's not just Crawford that can play the game. She can as well, given the right circumstances.
Yeah, she's a sophisticated character, right? That's kind of what I got from this. She's not just doing. There's not one element that's causing this. There's like lots of complicated stuff going on, and she's synthesized it into this like, come on, guys, let's give this person some dignity kind of stuff. In the way you're suggesting. So yeah, I agree with you, but it's quite a complex set of stuff going on. And then it leads on to her, as Becky was saying, she sees all this other stuff, doesn't she? She's got this empathy. She can see things. I think, I don't think empathy is the right word for Lecter, but he sees this kind of details too, right? He's working at a higher level than others, and so's Clarice.
Yeah, I think that it's you tell, that he's a psychiatrist, and you're told that she has a psychological background as well from the stuff she's done at university. So I suppose that's a kind of on another level where those characters are similar. But like you say, he's obviously a lot more adept than she is.
Yeah. I'll do I think it's an interesting autopsy scene, which again made me think of the X-Files a lot. There's loads of autopsy scenes in the X-Files, aren't there? With Scully. Scully's always at it. She loves
the alien autopsy in Jose Chung's From Outer Space springs to mind.
Yeah, the one that always makes me laugh is the elephant autopsy. She actually climbs into the elephant. I was like, wow. But there's all sorts, isn't there? There's ones where spiders come out of people and all sorts of things. But yeah, they all pay homage to like this scene, I think.
But
yeah, definitely.
It's not a particularly gruesome scene.
There's a gruesome to it. I mean,
you get such a build up with them putting the kind of Vicks stuff underneath their nose to hide the sweat, and the way he kind of really theatrically whips back the cover off the body and then kind of stands away. I mean, he really does throw it back like he's, I don't know, like he's about to present a prize or something.
Yeah, there's a touch of the showman there, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are people that slowly peel off the plaster, and there are people that just tear it off, and he's definitely a tear it off kind of guy.
There was one gross touch in the commentary of this where they say, "Oh yeah, we had to make chocolate pupas, lots of them for the actress, so at least it was a nice taste." So that I was like, "Oh, this was all real done in camera." It's like gross. That poor woman had a thing shoved down the back of her throat and had to lie.
Does that mean somebody really reached in with those tweezers?
I think so. It's gross. Presumably it wasn't in the back of her. She wasn't choking, but it must have been pretty gross. Apparently she was holding her breath, though. She was holding her breath, so she had to hold her breath for 3 minutes.
That was the dummy.
No, she was holding her breath for 3 minutes, and like right at the end of it, she sometimes move because you'd have to move, so they'd have to do the scene again. So it's like, that sounds like an acting job from hell, basically.
Yeah, it quite reminds me of The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which if you haven't seen it, I recommend.
Oh, okay. Did Crawford say something that Clarice considered sexist during all this? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, he said to the police chief he basically said that there are, because it's a sexual, there are sexual elements to the case. He wanted to speak about them behind closed doors for obvious reasons, and then he looks at her, and then the police chief kind of looks at her, and then they all shuffle on out the room and
that's
leave.
What it was. Yeah. Because she does pick up on the way out, doesn't she? She says there's no need to make remarks like that to Crawford. Like she's picking him up on it, and he just goes point taken, which is very Skinner.
Well, he does. He basically does say to her when they're in the car travelling away that it was a play. It was a psychological play by him. He didn't actually mean it, and she does say that it doesn't really matter either way. It sort of damages my credibility whichever way it's meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to pick up on your points there, I think that she's very good at adapting to the situation. Whatever she's presented with, which I think is a great skill set for obviously the career she wants to go into, but again is very similar to Lecter. And also, coming back to Will Graham, he can empathise with Lecter because he's on the opposite end of the psychopathy scale, isn't he?
Yeah.
So it seems, and he can empathise with the actual killers.
Indeed.
Whereas she is on the complete opposite end of that, where she can really empathise with the victims.
Indeed.
So it's an interesting...
In fact, there's a very interesting point that I'd never considered John Douglas made in the commentary, a bit later on, but I'll mention it now. He actually says, I empathise, I try and get into the mindsets of the victim and what they were feeling and what the expression on the killer's face that they had to look at. It helps him understand the killer better by understanding the victims better, which I'd never considered. I always thought these guys tried to get in the heads of the killer, not the victims. But it kind of makes sense when you hear it from someone who actually does it.
Yeah, definitely. And it is Clarice that notices that something is lodged in the victim's throat. Yeah. And she obviously gets that out. We see that it's a cocoon. Is that the right term?
Oh, yeah, a pupa or a chrysalis or whatever it is. It's an insect stage, right? Whatever.
Bloody gross is what it is.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Chocolatey grossness.
Chocolatey, yeah. I wonder if you could buy those, chocolate ones.
You'd make a fortune. Quick, we should be writing these ideas down, I'm telling you.
So she actually then travels to the Smithsonian to have the cocoon, whatever it is, looked at, and discovers that it's a death head hawk moth, which isn't native to the area, so would have to have been shipped in from, I believe, Asia, and cared for. So they know that somebody is rearing and looking after this type of moth. And I read that the pattern on the moth's back in the poster isn't the natural pattern of that moth. It's actually Salvador Dali's Involuptus mors.
Okay.
Which is a picture of 7 naked women made to look like a human skull.
Ah, okay. Well, that's cool. That's cool. I have to say, this was Lone Gunman territory. This was
It really was. I was waiting for you to say that.
I was expecting Frohickey and Langley and that to turn up at one point, but yeah, it was so Lone Gunman, wasn't it? It was. Yep. Loved that bit.
And both the actors have been in the X-Files as well.
They have. One was in one of my favourites, Die de Verletz, the one with the demons, where the little town, basically they're Satan worshippers, and he's like head of the PTA, gets out the candles and all that. It just makes me laugh. Yeah, it was great.
It really was, and of course she gets hit on again, but she quite. It's like, I mean, it's very quotable. I mean, I'm always using the term. I'm using house wine now, but she basically, I think in the book, she at the end of the film, she's going on a date with him.
Oh, all right.
And he is there as well, isn't he? At her graduation.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, and because that's another point as well, which we haven't touched upon. There have been a lot of readings of the film that Clarice is actually gay. And that Cordelia, I believe, her
name's much weirder than that. Her name's Aldia.
Aldia?
Yeah, it's like you've been to Aldi. Well, the new ones are Aldia.
I'm even more Aldi than the Aldi. I have a bit of a problem with this character because she's so underwritten. I think she needs to be beefed up a little. It's probably the one flaw in the film for me.
Actress. She's a really great actress. She is in one of my favourite films with Van Damme.
Sorry, one of your favourite films come up with Van Damme, or do you mean one of your favourite Van Damme films?
Hard Target.
Hard Target.
Yeah.
John Woo. Great film.
Yeah, it is a good film.
Definitely. Yeah. And she's brilliant in that and in other things I've seen her in. But I
think that the montage scene were probably full scenes, and that's where she appeared mostly.
Right.
Because it got the way she runs to tell Clarice at the end that Lecter's escaped makes you feel like she's more invested in the narrative than her screen time would tell you.
I think that was one of the weaknesses, the way this character was sort of dealt with. We needed a scene or two with her and Clarice, right? A bit more.
Yeah, and I know that Jodie Foster said that she's quite annoyed by that reading, and it might be because of her own personal life. But that she said, I think it's on the back of the female hero aspect, that the romance, she doesn't see that as needing to be necessary in the film and the story, that it's all about Clarice and her career. Whereas in the book, you get more hints of how she feels about whatever his name is, Frohickey, we'll call him. Yeah. And obviously with even Crawford, little intimations there as well as even Lecter. So that was an interesting reading, and we'll come back to that again very shortly in regards to Buffalo Bill and how that character's been read.
The thing is that Lecter picks her apart so well that you would think that a major character device like her being gay, he would have picked up on.
Yeah.
True, very true. Yeah.
I also think there's a bit of like sort of anti-gayism in that. It's like maybe that's not.
I'm not sure that's the word.
No. No, that's.
I mean, I like it.
I'm confused. I'm confused what I actually said just then.
Anti-gayism, you said.
Yeah, I know what I said. I know. What I mean by that is to suggest that Clarice is exceptional, but she's a little odd. Back when a time when being a lesbian was seen as a little odd. Does that make sense? So it's like saying she's like that because of that, you know. She's
an outsider.
She's not anyway, a normal woman, quotes normal woman, you know, because she does all this amazing stuff and she's gay.
And that's so annoying. Yeah, that she's not considered normal.
Yeah, that's just let's just ignore that because it's annoying.
But,
good point though.
We then see that Crawford has authorised Starling to offer Lecter a fake deal promising a prison transfer if he provides information that helps them to find Buffalo Bill and rescue Catherine. And Lecter uses this again, always trying to gain power, and Ted Bundy did this constantly. He actually got his execution date pushed back quite a few times.
Right.
wanted to give a bit more. He always kept a little bit back, and he actually wanted to see case files as well for the Green River Killer in the same way that Lecter did. So I thought it was quite interesting. But he demands a quid pro quo from Stalin, and he said that he'll give her clues, so not all of the information, but clues in exchange for personal information. And she starts to tell him about the murder of her father. So we're getting back into that trauma again.
Amazing scene this is.
Yep. And we're getting more of a rapport between the two of them. And again, that it's a really, really interesting relationship that again develops more within the books. So I'd recommend, if anybody hasn't read the books, even on audio, it's an easy read, I'd say, but that doesn't mean that it's not great writing.
But this is the point where you get that shot, that reflective shot of Lecter, as he starts to sort of help with the case, as he accepts the fake deal and starts to help with the case. You get the shot of her listening intently and his face reflected, just sort of leading her through it, as it were.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just a masterful scene. Acting, writing, everything.
Yeah. And I love how cryptic as well his clues are.
Yeah, he likes his crosswords, I get a feel. Old Lecter. He likes his little ambiguities.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he's playing with her here, but he's so clever that he, at the same time, by giving the clues in that way, he's also playing with Crawford. And you've mentioned it before, but he's based on, real life Special Agent John Douglas, who was very much involved in creating the behavioral sciences unit and the way that profiling develops as well. And he did coach Scott Glenn on his portrayal of basically being a member of the BSU, and his infamous book Mindhunter does chart the development of the BSU.
Sorry,
around
Mindhunter. It's called Mindhunter.
Did I not say that?
You said Manhunter, didn't you?
Oh, sorry. His book, Mindhunter, charts the development of the BSU around early cases, and there's actually a series coming out in October based on the book, which will be set in 1979 and will revolve around two FBI agents who interview imprisoned serial killers in order to understand how such criminals think, and they apply it to solving ongoing cases.
Yeah, Paul, if you like non-fiction books, then you got to read Mindhunter sometime. It's really good.
Isn't this new TV show called Mindhunters?
Yeah, well, yeah. But the actual original book was about 20 years ago, right, Becky? Something like that.
Yeah, if not even longer.
Now, but it gives you insight into all sorts of cases John Douglas worked in. It's really good. It's a really good read.
Yeah, it's one of the better ones. Again, I think that and Capel's book, really, really great reads. And Scott Glenn actually was, I think it was John Douglas who played an audio tape of serial killers Bittaker and Norris torturing, raping and murdering two teenage girls. He actually played it for Scott Glenn, who couldn't listen to much of it at all.
He broke down, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Scott Glenn was
I remember reading
liberal.
an interview with him saying that he was against the death penalty until he heard that. And that changed his mind.
Yeah.
So,
pretty
really
dark thing to do. I mean, it sounds like the actors had some serious shit to put up with making this film.
Yeah, if you change your political views, something serious has happened, right?
Like, do you think this actor can play Disturbed? Well, forget about playing. Let's disturb him.
Yeah, exactly. That's not something you kind of let go, is it? So, and that gives you an idea as well of the Douglas's books, I should say, because he's also, I'd really highly recommend, written a book called Cases That Haunt Us, and it's all unsolved cases from Lizzie Borden to Jack the Ripper to the young pageant little girl who was murdered.
Yeah, the one with 3 names.
So and he was actually very, very closely involved in that case himself, but he offers his theory as to who did it, applying modern day profiles. Profiling.
I didn't even think you were allowed to do that with open cases.
Well, he did.
He did. Well, he was. Is it John Benet Ramsey?
John something. Joe Bennett. Joe Bennett.
I think it's John Benet Ramsey.
Okay. Well, yeah.
And I think she was named after her dad.
Oh, okay.
But he actually was, I think, the lead investigator on that case anyway. But with like Jack the Ripper and Lizzie Borden, because of how old they are.
That'd be right.
Maybe. Yeah. But it really, really fascinating book. So I think so much factual bits and bobs went into this, and I believe that Harris actually spent quite a bit of time hanging around the FBI offices.
He spent years researching this book. He did, yeah.
Yeah, and he's quite a slow writer as well. And I know that after the success of this, Dino De Laurentiis was basically, I think, from an interview I read, he was flying out every so often and prompting him in person to write Hannibal.
Well, just so he could make the film version.
Yeah.
If you know Dino De Laurentiis is like this proper stereotype Italian, loud Italian. You can imagine him coming and hassling you when you're trying to write. Hey, write my book.
Big cigar.
But the Thomas Harris novel Hannibal was published in 1999, and I believe it knocked Harry Potter off the top bestseller.
Yes.
Now those I have read.
But sorry, I'm going way off topic there. So Chilton has secretly recorded the conversation between Clarice and Lecter, and he reveals this deceit to Lecter before he offers his own deal. And Lecter agrees, and he says he'll give him part of the information now and part later. He's flown to Memphis, Tennessee, and he is met by Senator Ruth Martin. And again, coming back to what you both said, all of the women in this film, none of them are victims. They're all really powerful, very, very strong women.
Yeah, and they're always surrounded by men. Always.
Well, I mean,
have two of them.
Female senator's still rare.
Yeah.
She's got a power coif as well and a power suit, which he marks upon, doesn't he? I love the suit.
Love your suit.
Love your suit. And I've watched The Handmaid's Tale recently. There ain't going to be any female senators at all soon, from the way that was going.
No, but that's only imaginary, mate. Don't worry.
I'll worry. We missed the scene. We missed the rubs its lotion on the skin. Rubs its lotion on its skin. Rubs the lotion. I'm going to get this right in a minute. Rubs the lotion on its skin seed, right? Which is
yes.
I always use that line.
don't want to know.
Good times.
Yes, indeed. We get the scene of Buffalo Bill shouting down the well at Catherine Martin. And like we said, she's scared, but she isn't acting like a victim. I mean, we see as he pulls because he's telling her to put the lotion on her skin, unless she gets unless she gets the hose again. She gets the hose again.
And she's trying to bargain with him, isn't she?
She is and he's just not having it, and then he just erupts, doesn't he? And Ted Levine has got such a booming, deep voice.
Yeah, Ted Levine is really good. He should have had more work, anything I see him in, he's good. And he was good, really good in this.
You know when some actors do one role that people just can't get out of their head? Can you imagine him turning up to be like the dad of a family of five in the next sitcom and them thinking, no, that's just not going to work?
Yeah, it must have been really tricky, but he is really good. I saw him in the remake of Hills Have Eyes. He was the father in that, and he was really good. And that was like 2008 or something.
He was amazing. He was, most recently, I've seen him in the Banshee chapter.
I've not seen that, no.
Give it a watch. It's found footage, but one of the better ones.
Just from the name. That sounds terrible.
The name, right? Do not pay any attention to the name. It's a really, really nice little film.
The problem with horror is you go on Netflix or something like that, and See the
everything.
poster for this amazing horror film, and it looks incredible. The poster does, and then you find out that it's a load of students with a couple of GoPros that have actually made the film, and that they got someone with some talent to do the poster.
Yeah. This is a gem in all of the crap, and I don't know why it's called that, but yeah, great little film. Where were we up to?
We were talking about the Love Your Suit. Sorry, I railed us back.
And just to say as well, as she complies and puts the lotion on her skin, and he calls her it all the time. He doesn't regard her as a person, a woman, whatever. And as he's pulling the bucket back up, it's got a light attached to it, and we see all nails embedded in the wall, which is pretty horrific. Yeah. And we get that booming, kind of orchestral note that accompanies her screaming, and he starts screaming back at her.
Yeah.
And just to point out there, the music was actually composed by Howard Shore.
Oh, right. It did sound very Shore-like, yeah.
It did, and obviously he did Lord of the Rings, and he would work with Demi again on Philadelphia.
Oh, right. Cool.
Yes, Shore's score for this film is great. Really good.
Just coming back to your point, though, there, Paul, in regards to Manhunter, I do love the soundtrack personally, but I've heard a lot of people say that is a big problem for them when watching the film. Did you not find this one intrusive? Because when you actually pay attention to it, it is very imposing.
I think that, my problem is that I like a good movie score. Lots of modern movies don't bother. They pick sort of 5 or 6 pop songs to build a soundtrack around, but there are a few films that have a proper score nowadays, and people like Shaw and Goldsmith and John Williams, I think it's a dying art. So I'm always a fan of a film that's had a specific pieces of music composed for it. I don't find it intrusive at all. No, I think it's a great score. I think it fits really well. I also think it subverts what you're seeing on the screen sometimes. For example, like we said, the very horror-esque image of her running through the woods at the beginning has quite a light, sort of almost family film kind of jaunty score playing behind it. And I think that is completely deliberate.
That's interesting, because I find that score at the beginning almost, not quite Disney, but certainly got a touch of romance to it, which to me lends the fairy tale element to it, actually. But yeah, okay.
At the beginning of Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's confused. It's orchestral, right? But light strings, right?
I find it very ominous.
Really?
Oh no, I didn't. I thought it was quite light and sort of almost like something you'd hear out of a Spielberg movie from the 80s.
It makes me think of some of the music from Shrek for some reason.
Really? I did not get that at all.
Yeah, potato that.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm going to soundbite that on our show. I'm going to soundbite the shit out of that.
Oh, shit.
Name that tune.
I've set myself right out there, haven't I? Luckily, I have first edit on this.
Damn.
So we get Lecter. He's wheeled in on, looks like something that you'd use to wheel sacks of boxes or paper into an office. And he's got that notorious mask.
Yeah, he's got the Jason mask on, hasn't he?
He has. That, again, must have been influenced by such horror films like that.
It's a great image. It is a great image.
It is. And he gives the senator a load of jip. He talks about people losing their limbs and feeling something there, still phantom limb syndrome. And he says, a tickle. When your daughter's dead on the side, where will you feed it? Yes, or she breastfed Catherine. Yeah. And again, it's a very female. Do you know what I mean? In terms of the gender, it's very specific the way that he's attacking her there.
Yeah, in all sorts of ways. A very, very nice bit of scripting. Well, I think from the original's book as well. Really nice.
Yeah.
No, apparently it's not the same dialogue.
Oh, okay.
From what I understand, they said that they didn't want to use the same dialogue, and the scriptwriter had a difficult time coming up with things equally as horrible for Lecter to say to the senator.
Well, whatever they did, it was very effective.
It was indeed, and she's obviously horrified, and we get that wonderful "take this monster back to Baltimore," very theatrical and again dramatic. And as he's about to be wheeled away, he comes up with a description of Buffalo Bill, Lewis Friend, 5 foot whatever, blonde hair, blah blah blah. So that looks like he has been given him the correct information. But, of course, Starling is on the case. She notices that Lewis Friend is an anagram of iron sulfide, which is, of course, fool's gold.
Yeah, I know it's petty, but I get annoyed here because sulfide spelled with an F, which is wrong. It's the American wrong way of spelling things. I know it's petty and ridiculous, but it annoys me.
That's the one thing you'd have to cry as he was eating
terrible.
His face off.
Yeah, you don't spell it with an F.
Sulfide with an F.
And Lecter, as part of his, his deal, what he wanted, he's currently, and I don't get this. I mean, there's no CCTV. He's in the middle of, it looks like a city hall, a temporary place for him to be kept. And in the middle of this massive room, he is in a jailed. A bad cell. He's in a cage. Yeah,
it's in a massive cage, a lion's cage, isn't it? It's like that kind of circus cage.
If you're about to say nobody ever asked the question, how'd you get the massive cage in here?
Yeah. You know what? Jonathan Demme picked this up, and I think he figures, well, it looks good. And I kind of agree with him. It's like, yeah, all right. Okay.
Because in reality, I presume somebody like that would be drugged if they were going to be transported somewhere.
Well, they'd be kept in a standard jail or a moving car, wouldn't they? They wouldn't just construct a big cage in a room for a bit.
It makes for somewhere nice to hang the copper up later.
Yeah, that's lovely, that bit, yeah.
Well, that's it. It's not like he's in the middle of absolutely the arse end of nowhere, is it? He's in Baltimore, isn't he?
Yeah, it's odd that they choose that rather than just taking him to the local jail or police precinct or whatever. It's not really ever explained why he's... I mean, it's the idea that he's so dangerous that he has to be kept completely isolated from everybody else.
I guess that's it, right? But it looks good, right? It is the one kind of slightly falling down convention that they kind of use in this. That's like, but this is like an opera of a film, right? It's not like, it ain't Manhunter. It's that's why the big score works, right? Because it's big characters. Both Buffalo Bill and Lecter are big characters, and they kind of need their big room, their weird spaces.
It is incredibly theatrical. The sort of marble floors and this well lit cage in the middle of the room all works tremendously well on screen.
Mm.
Yep, definitely. And Clarice goes in to speak to him and basically asks him for the truth. He tells her that all the information she needs is contained in the case file. And rather than just literally give her the information directly, he insists that they continue their quid pro quo. So she recounts a traumatic childhood incident where she was awakened by the sound of spring lambs being slaughtered on a relative's farm in Montana. And we get some amazing close-ups here of his eyes in a very predatory way.
Yeah, it is. It's an amazing scene, again.
It really is. And
is it true he only blinks once in the entire film?
Yeah, I mean, I've read that he based this on a friend of his, I think it was a friend who very rarely blinked, and how creepy that was. Yeah.
He said he had to train himself not to blink because it's almost an automatic response a lot of the time. So, having known that, when I rewatched it this time, it is freaky watching him, everything he does, because you don't realise how natural a thing blinking is until someone's not doing it deliberately. And it's it gives his eyes a real odd, glassy look to them as well all the time.
Yeah. It's I mean, his whole presence is just amazing in this. He's a scary look. He's almost alien-esque, isn't he, when they do that close-up and he's not blinking.
He's otherworldly, isn't he?
And his eyes look big. It's almost like they put drops in to make his pupils expand or something. I just found there's a note here from Demi. I got off the commentary. He says, this particular scene, these scenes were very easy to film because the actors were great and the sets were good. And then he says, okay, the room in the cage is silly, but it's a very effective. That's what he said.
No, definitely. And we get this wonderful turn from Jodie Foster again. And she did actually, as well as John Douglas coaching Scott Glenn, she was coached as well by a female FBI agent, Marianne Krause. And she, I think, was the inspiration behind her crying when she came out of the initial, what's it called, Institute for the Criminal Insane.
I thought you were going to say jizzing.
Oh.
Sorry.
She may have been. I don't know. But
you always have immaculate hair.
With this pointy bit. Yeah.
Who needs hairspray? Yeah. But yeah. So that was really interesting how she informed her character as well. And apparently in this scene, you can hear a crew member dropped something. I think a wrench.
Okay.
And if you listen carefully during the scene, and apparently she just carried on Jodie Foster.
Great acting. Again, I like the fact they have a growing close-up, don't they? Both faces close. As the scene goes on, the camera gets closer and closer until the bars disappear, which I kind of was talking about before. That was really cool. Great acting, both of them. Both excellent face acting here.
Definitely, and obviously she's not meant to be there, so she gets found out, and as she's taken away, she has brought his drawings for him, and he gives her the case files, and they touch for the first time. That's the only time their fingers touch. And
romance.
That's the thing.
Romance is in the air.
But is it a fatherly relationship because of that, or is that some kind of...
Does he lick his fingers afterwards? It might be just like, like getting the powdered sugar off a donut.
You can't help yourself sometimes, right?
Thank you, Clarice. So she's escorted from the building because this is all Chilton that has let them know that she shouldn't be there. And later that evening, Lecter kills the guards, only 2 guards that are actually in the room with him. And we have this... Jim. Yeah, bless him. We have the operatic music, the classical music playing throughout, and he's asked for a second dinner, and that's how that's his ruse for them coming to the cell and opening it. And
he stole Chilton's pen previously, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because when Chilton comes to sign the order, he hasn't got his pen on him anymore. I mean, they make it very obvious and remind you several times about the pen.
Yes, they do. And he beats the shit out of one of them, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And we get that lovely shot from the point of view of the guard with Lecter just...
No, he kills them both.
Pardon?
Yeah, but he beats one first.
He beats one first, and with that...
And he bites one's nose off, doesn't he?
And then he cuts one's face
off. Yeah, well,
all in all, he's not a very nice fellow.
It's that point of view shot, though, from the guard that he's beaten. Very systematic, very slow, and the blood's spattering everywhere. And with the music...
Yeah, with the chamber music playing in the background.
Yeah, really, really stylized, but, a great scene, and the fact he's wearing white. And then Stalin is... so we get that... How does this come about now?
Well...
would you get the whole...
That's it, there's a gunshot.
She's back in her room with her roommate, isn't she, discussing the case, and they see a note Lecter's left on one of the papers.
Yes, so she's
Max,
with...
Right?
What is it, Aldir?
Aldia. More Aldi than Aldi.
Don't these random disposal sites seem a little bit too random to you? Or something like that?
really close shots of both of their faces. Interesting. Full-on shots of their faces. And yeah, so they basically determine that it is coveting, and he mentions that to her when they had that meeting while he was in that strange cell, that we covet what we see every day.
Well, I think that conversation for me is the kind of the film in microcosm, the everything about looking at something that you can't have, and even the scene at the end with the night vision, all of that ties into that conversation they have there about being in a world where you want something you can't have, or wanting to become something else. That's the running theme through the whole film. Definitely.
So they determine that because we covet what we see every day, and the way that the victims were weighed down differently, the first one that was discovered, the first victim wasn't necessarily the first person killed because of the weighting, that the first victim, they killed anew personally. So Clarice is going to travel to Frederica Bimmel's home address to see if she can pick up anything there. In the meantime, we get the wonderful escape scene from Lecter. Yeah. And the guards downstairs hear the gunshot. Oh, we get that. It's kind of like Keystone Cops, isn't it?
They're a bit scared.
Well, can I want to know, and I don't know whether it's mentioned on the commentary, but when the cops arrive at the room, they burst in and kind of hit a Charlie's Angels pose with all of them at different angles and at different heights, pointing in different directions.
We need the music.
I mean, one woman seems to be pointing into the corner of the room at the ceiling, and I'm like, where are people going to be hidden?
It's really funny.
Yeah, that is a good point. I hadn't noticed, but yeah, now you said it, I'm never going to forget that.
Well, watch that scene again, because they hold the pose for about 5 seconds, to the point where I'm thinking this has veered into parody now. But then that I didn't know whether it was deliberate, because the next shot is the shot of the cop with his guts hanging out, crucified on the cage. So
made it look like a butterfly, right? I always read that as a butterfly.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Top of the Death Head Hawk Moth.
He's having a bit of a laugh, commenting about.
No, the card.
And then the other officer is down on the floor, and his face is ruined, and he is taken out of the building in an ambulance. And even while the stretcher is in the lift, there is blood dripping from the hatch at the top of the lift cart, and they think obviously he's wounded because they heard a shot and that he's on top of the lift. So the officer is wheeled out into the ambulance. They open the hatch, see a body there. They try shooting the leg, think it's dead and such. And then when the body falls down through the hatch, the face is missing, and that's when they realise, and we realise, that the body that's been wheeled out is in fact Hannibal Lecter with the officer's face on his own.
Yeah, very cool.
She's just wrong on many levels.
Did you get that first time round what happened? Do you have any idea that was?
What? Well, I knew once you see the guard with his face missing. I mean, the thing is that it's very difficult to remember what you've picked up on in having rewatched, because I've seen this film many, many, many times, and on rewatches you can see the join when he's lying on the floor. You can see it's a mask, but first time round, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have realised until the reveal when they open the hatch in the elevator and the guard drops through.
I think when I first saw it, I was a bit confused and felt, and I saw this at the cinema, I think, and I was like, yeah, that's all bullshit. There's no way you could change all those clothes and do all that. But, I just went with it.
Yeah.
But I was confused. Until he sat up, I did not know that was him.
No, me neither, because I watched the film before I read the book.
Right.
So that I thought was a great bit of editing.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good action sequence.
Yeah, definitely. And we have then Clarice traveling to the victim's hometown, the first victim, Frederica Bimmel, and she's in a room. Her father lets her go up, bless him. He's had all of this law enforcement kind of trespassing across his property, and she goes into Frederica's room and she looks for all her personal belongings, and again it's that empathy, and she knows to look at the back of her jewelry box, and there's some photos in there of her.
See, I always thought that because she's criticised for her sort of small town upbringing by Lecter at the beginning of the film, that she's almost tapping into that at the end of the film to solve the case.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. And that's her, I think, becoming kind of accepting herself as well, which is a really interesting aspect of the character development. But it's that intuition as well. She finds the photos, and it's of Frederica basically half dressed, like kind of sexual photos, Polaroids. And what always gets me is the fact that Clarice just leaves them on top. She doesn't put them away.
Gross.
For the father to potentially find.
Yeah.
But she wanders around the room and she looks in the wardrobe and she sees that she knows that Frederica was a seamstress, and she sees a dress with 2 diamond-shaped patterns, and the body that she looked at, the victim, back in Clay County, the diamond-shaped patches of skin were missing on the back, and she puts 2 and 2 together that he's making a woman's suit, as she calls it.
I have to say, this scene to me is a combination of some great filmmaking shortcuts with the diamond stuff, but I always feel the finding of pictures is just a plot convenience, just to speed things on a bit, because it's just too convenient. But the other bit is really great.
You have to have some blatant signposts
for some
members of the audience that aren't up with what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit similar as well, I think, to the book, in that in the book she's walking around Catherine Martin's house after she's been ridiculed because of her trying to go against Hannibal Lecter, knowing it could affect her career. And at one point in the book, she may not have a career anymore.
Oh, so, right, I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, and she is in...
she's got a lot on the line in, right?
She's in Catherine's room, and she finds some, I don't know the first thing about this because I'm so boring, but it's drugs and it's paper that you can, lick.
Oh, acid, probably.
And she's found this, and the senator finds out and is fuming with her and such, but it's very, again, political in terms of her role, and you could read all sorts into that in terms of gender, but it kind of tied that in as well, that she's still got those skills even though she is potentially not going to be working anymore and such. So it's a really interesting one because there's so much on the line in the book that there isn't in the film.
Yeah,
because she's more emotional. It sounds like she's more emotionally invested in the film, where there's more than just emotion riding on it in the book.
Yes,
I think they made the right choice to drop that because I think the tension was good enough. I don't think we needed any more.
I think it would have meant a lot more screen time if that was the case.
We don't need that.
But she phones Crawford, who is actually in is it helicopter? He's en route to James Gumb's house. They found out who Buffalo Bill is because they've cross-referenced Lecter's notes with the hospital archives because he hinted that this may be somebody who's applied for a sex change.
Sex change, yeah.
And they found a man named Jane Gum, who is a transsexual who once applied unsuccessfully for a sex change operation. She wants to come with him and meet him there. And he says, no, you continue to interview people in the neighbourhood there. We'll get a bit more information. Thanks for your work and everything.
He's
and
just
he
brushing her off. He's just brushing her off, isn't he? So brutal.
Well, I mean, she's quite far away as well at this point. They're not that close.
That's true. That's true. But
it always makes me laugh watching early 90s films because you forget that really it wasn't until the mid-90s that anybody had mobile phones that actually worked. and she actually has to ask the criminal's permission to use his phone when she's at the crime scene.
Yeah.
I think that's just so fucking weird. And when he's setting up his command post and he's like, we have to fax this stuff to Chicago, and I'm like, fax, my God.
I still use the word fax when I mean scan and email, and my kids go, my kids will go fax.
Aww.
I said, you know what I mean. Shut up.
Grandpa's talking about technology again.
It's interesting that the X-Files, that obviously inspired by this, is like the first major series that uses the mobile phone, significantly.
Well, they even make jokes about that, don't they, when they have flashback episodes with where they have to sort of run around to I think there's one episode where Mulder's got a beeper, which made me laugh.
Oh dear.
But it's weird how mobile phone, the sort of technology affected how screenwriters have to write for thrillers and horrors.
It's a big deal in horrors, yeah.
Help is always a sort of live battery away, and that sort of kills any tension of people being trapped out in the remote parts of places.
Yes, yeah, there's a really interesting clip on YouTube of people have edited together all of the bits of horror films where they give reasons why their cell phones aren't working.
Amazing.
But we then return to James Gum, Bill's basement, where Catherine is trying to lure Precious, Bill's beloved dog, into the well as collateral. And this coincides with the iconic scene that Paul already mentioned of Bill wearing a woman's scalp and tucking himself in as he dances to Goodbye Horses.
And who hasn't done that on a Friday night?
We've all done that. We've all done that. Do it all the time.
That's like a rite of passage for all young men.
Yeah, he's not lying. He's not lying.
Always to that song as well. It's very strange.
And upon its release, the film was quite readily accused of homophobia, transphobia, and sexism.
Homophobia, that's the word, not anti-gayism.
Anti-gayism.
Look, I use my words, you use yours.
For the portrayal of Buffalo Bill, and in response to this critique, Demi said that Buffalo Bill wasn't a gay character, that he was a tormented man who hated himself and wished he was a woman, because that would have made him as far away from himself as he possibly could be.
Yeah, I mean, they had a perfect alibi in saying, look, this was based on Ed Gein. This was the behaviours of Ed Gein. So
his sexuality doesn't really occur to me watching the film.
No.
It's never even. It's not an issue. It's not even the driving forces behind why he's doing what he does. So I don't.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like what can I be offended by today? Kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was the 90s. I mean, Betty Friedkin was getting involved in all sorts, so in her critique and that. So, yeah, it's one of those things. You're never going to please everyone, are you? And I think, like in the book, it gives a bit more background to the character. Obviously, like his name was meant to be Jamie or James, I think, but they missed out a letter in his birth certificate. So it was that sense of identity.
Yeah.
From the offset, and he's watching constantly pictures of his mum, video footage of his mum, as it's not even, you find out later on, but he believes it is his mum in beauty pageants and such.
Right.
And he wants to become a woman and emulate her. But yeah, it's just people will find something to moan at, won't they?
Yeah.
So, and I think as well, it's maybe associating, being gay with that. The serial killer aspect, and that is that stigma of associating the two that maybe people picked up on. But the book does go into more detail, but I never read it in that way personally. The film, I mean.
Not me. I guess.
Yeah, I'm not buying that either.
Yeah, it's a case of, I don't know. It's hard to make a call really, because if you have a certain sort of proclivity, or you're a certain way, you're more sensitive to some things than the people that haven't got that. So it might be a bit of that, but it does feel like moaning about things for the sake of it, perhaps.
Yeah. And Starling is continuing her interviews of friends of Buffalo Bill's first victim in Ohio, while we see Crawford leading an FBI HRT team to James Gumm's address in Illinois. And we get the cut between them both as Clarice is ringing the bell, and we hear the bell. Clarice is knocking at the door.
What is a hormone replacement therapy team?
I was wondering
that. Is that just in case they meet any middle-aged women on the way to the investigation?
It stops you getting fragile bones or something.
It's hostage rescue team.
Oh, hostage rescue team, right, that's okay.
That makes way more...
Because I've been wondering that for 26 years.
So we get this cut between the two. And in the meantime, we also get James Gumm has noticed that Precious is now down in the well. And again, she's not a victim. Catherine Martin is saying she's going to break the dog's neck unless he lowers the phone down, and he's going mentally screaming at her. And that's when we hear the really intrusive screeching sound of his bell.
Yeah.
And we see the FBI agents, the HRT team, pressing the buzzer, and we see Clarice knocking at the door of, we presume, one of the friends of Frederica Bimmel. And when James Gumm opens the door, it's actually Clarice. They're at the wrong address. When they barge in, the FBI team, it's an empty property.
Yeah, it's a nice bait and switch, this.
Editing stuff, isn't it?
Did you see this trope used before? Because I can't think of this personally. I can't remember this being used before this.
There must be.
I think it's been used before.
I bet Hitchcock used it somewhere.
Yeah, I think it was used in something like Vertigo or Dial M for Murder or something like that, where you're expecting one person to be the victim and it looks like they're being stalked, but it eventually ends up being someone else.
I've got a feeling it's in Frenzy as well, but I don't know. I reckon it feels very like a Hitchcock thing to me.
Yeah, no,
but
definitely. It's just, I just think it's done really, really well here.
Yeah,
and it's excellent. Yeah, I saw it coming, but it worked with the story, so it wasn't like, this is so corny. No, it was spot on.
Well, I don't think I did at the time. I don't think I did see it coming at the time when I first saw it.
I saw it coming because they were concentrating on Starling, so I knew something was going down. That was it. That was the reason I saw it coming.
Because I kind of thought that we were going to get more of Lecter and Starling, and that's why they kind of separated the stories at that point.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, definitely. And she enters the house after we have that, the iconic conversation about Frederica Bimmel, and he asked her, was she a big fat girl?
Starling doesn't like this, does she? She kind of bristles a bit when he uses a big fat person, he says, something like that.
Yeah.
Was she a large girl?
And I think she wasn't going to press it as much, but until he says that, and it kind of gets her dander up a bit,
Yeah, and she's questioning him about the house and such, and then she ends up going inside, and she starts to notice that obviously something is wrong, and it isn't until she sees a moth that she knows that she's in the right
it lands on the threads, isn't it? Really nice touch.
Yeah.
The other thing is it's got like industrial cling film wrapper, which is weird.
The creepiest bit in the film for me is that room with all the moths in it.
Oh dear! And she pulls her gun, and he just laughs at her, doesn't he?
He runs because you get a reverse shot of the cooker on the other side of the door with the revolver sat on it. And as she draws her gun, he turns his back and just runs, and she falters. She doesn't shoot him.
Yeah. No, and she had plenty of time. He did it quite slowly as well.
Could have definitely shot him in the leg. Yeah. I'm a great proponent of shooting people in the leg. It diffuses many situations.
Have you seen the film Copycat?
Is that Sigourney Weaver?
Yeah. The whole deal that's made out of shooting somebody in the shoulder. Makes me laugh.
Yeah.
I just
that's the idea. I agree fully. I heartily concur.
Yeah, I just watched Serenity, and in that the shepherd goes out with guns with them, and he says, and Jane, I don't know if you guys know Serenity or Firefly, but Jane, one of the more aggressive people, says, ain't it against your religion to shoot people? And he says, ain't it in the Bible you shouldn't shoot people? He goes, yeah, but it's all very flexible on kneecaps.
Yeah, that's. I think I don't see what shouting freeze is going to accomplish in situations like that.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's again, she's a trainee. This is the first time no other trainee will have encountered this situation like she's been given access to. So I really feel for her in this instance, and she doesn't want to shoot somebody. I wouldn't want to, and he just doesn't comply at all. Turns around and runs for it, and we get this massive. It's like a labyrinth, isn't it? His house.
Yeah.
But it reminds me that the shots before these scenes that you see where he's working on the suit, it almost looks like backstage at an old theatre or something like that. There's lots of mannequins and different sorts of dresses and clothes, and there's sort of weird cubbies and little stairs leading off from places. It's a very odd odd place.
Yeah, it's kind of cool though. It really, I mean, it's theatrical. It's literally theatrical.
It reminded me a bit of what you'd imagine, H.H. Holmes, the
American serial killer guy.
Yeah, who actually created a house with booby trap doors and such.
Oh, that was the Chicago World's Fair, wasn't it? That was.
Yeah. It always makes me think of.
I don't remember it literally, obviously, but I watched a documentary about that, and there was about 17 people went missing, and they didn't actually realise for ages while the World's Fair was on that he was getting sort of holidaymakers and visitors to it to come back to his creepy murder house.
Yeah, well, it made out that it was a hotel, especially for young women who were travelling there to work, because after the massive fire in Chicago, they rebuilt it, and that was part of it. And he had different crews on, and he'd fire them, so nobody knew the exact plans of the house, and it would be shoots leading to nowhere, and he could gas people and all sorts. Whoa. But it always reminds me of that, and also the Winchester House as well. Who that was in the early 1900s, the widow of the gun magnate for the Winchester rifle. He died of tuberculosis, and I believe her daughter did as well. And she believed that there was a curse on the family because they manufactured rifles that were killing people. And she apparently she went to a psychic who told her that she needed to build a house to atone for her sins. And she built this house with stairs leading nowhere, doorways leading nowhere, and they had to constantly build on it until she died. Basically, it was really strange.
That's bizarre. You read some weird shit.
And now it's probably a hotel.
I think I've stayed at that hotel, yeah. I think I've worked in some offices just like this.
It's like a Premier Inn in Watford. I stopped in one.
You're old enough, Mark.
Yeah. Thank you.
So she follows him down into the basement, and we get this wonderful scene of her going through room after room. And we had that scene at the beginning of her training where she didn't check the corner.
Yes, I like that riff callback. That was awesome.
She is absolutely terrified, and she's, closing doors behind her, trying to, put chairs underneath them so she knows that he can't come through them. And she manages to come to the room where Catherine's in the well.
Yeah, at one point we see a skin suit, don't we, on a mannequin?
No, it's like, and you see a kind of horrible decomposing corpse in a bath.
In a field bath. It was real grim.
Is the elderly lady, I believe, who taught him how to sew.
Ah, okay.
So I'm guessing she died. It stuck her in there, but that
must stink.
Yeah. And I mean, we see that. So yeah, of course, we see those two horrific things. And then Catherine's in the well.
Yeah.
And she again, not a victim screaming, "You bitch, you better get me out of here, don't leave me."
I like the fact Clarice goes, "Is the FBI your safe?" And you think, yeah, not really.
yeah, that's not 100% accurate.
And at some point here, we've got the cut back to Crawford, and he's like, "Clarice." So we know obviously that hopefully he's on his way, but she tracks him through a series of other doors, and then the lights go out and he's got on his glasses. And this was filmed in complete pitch blackness, so she couldn't see where he was.
But why would you go in a pitch black room and wave your arms around like that in that situation? Would you? That's my main issue with all horror and horror-like films, is that for the narrative to move forward, a lot of time people have to do really fucking dumb things.
Yeah, you're quite right. You are right. I think there could be an argument made. I mean, you could say, why didn't she just leave the house straight away and call for backup? And you could say, yeah,
she was by the phone. Why did she phone?
But he was running around potentially with a gun, so you'd have to leave. But the thing is, she might be concerned for the woman, and she finds her.
Just stopped in that room, that well lit room, and talked to that woman with a gun trained on the door or something. I don't know, but
does she?
Seems to be more sensible options.
But hold on, isn't she in the room when it goes dark?
No, she'd worked her way through that room into the next part.
Okay, well, yeah, that's not a good idea.
So you've got, like, again, I've said she's great. She adapts well, and such. She's got this logical approach to everything, but she also makes some very rookie mistakes, and that's a great. Again, it's a really great. In terms of her character, she's so well written that she's still making. She could easily have been shot and killed. I mean,
that's true.
We get the point
of view. We've just mentioned are completely explained by the fact that she is just a cadet.
So you're not sure what to do, right? An experienced officer would never go into a dark room, I'm sure. No, and we get the point of view again from James Gunn with the night vision goggles on, and he gets so close to her, he almost touches her hair, and that bit always gets me. But there's a moment like that in the X-Files, isn't there, where someone reaches out? Is it Toombs reaches out for Scully's hair?
How many times have you done that on your show?
I don't know, all the time.
Did you just say mullet?
Mully and Sculder.
Sculder. Anyway, let's move on. There's definitely moments like that in the X-Files too. I think Donnie Faster I'm thinking of as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's really reminded me of Donnie Faster. And the way that Scully is so traumatised after that.
Yeah.
That vulnerability, even though she's an experienced officer.
You mentioned it already, Becky, but I just want to go back to the when she leaves the woman and she said, "Don't leave me, you fucking bitch." So it's no, "Oh, thanks for rescuing me. Oh, I'm so glad you're here." "Don't leave me, you bitch." That made me laugh.
Yeah, no, that did get me. And so she hears the gun being cocked behind her and literally turns around and fires. And as she does, she shoots out the window or something boarding the window. We get the light coming in, and you get that very, very red blood, as Paul said.
Yeah.
Extremely
I have
red.
to say, Foster does a really good job doing Terrified as she's trying to reload the gun. Really good job, that. That looks properly genuine.
Oh, yeah, and the whole scene in the dark was so tense for me.
Yeah.
Great so scene. Completely. And just talk about Jodie Foster's performance, and because Demi directed Married to the Mob in 1988 with Pfeiffer, that didn't portray the FBI in a great light, and because of Foster's dealings with the Star Crew tried to kill her.
Oh yeah, I've forgotten it.
Yeah, he
shot Reagan, didn't he?
Yeah, she was really impressed.
Reagan?
No, Reagan. Right. Ronald Reagan.
Oh.
With a ray gun.
That sounds like some Back to the Future shit there.
Tried to kill her with a ray gun. Because of how they'd handled the case, they'd really earned her respect. And she made it clear to Demi, allegedly before filming, that the FBI would be portrayed in a positive way. Which is interesting.
That's fair. That's, I suppose. I mean, if they've protected her, then you could see why she'd want them portrayed in a positive light, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely, and just the way that her personal life has informed that character as well. That was quite interesting. But
I mean, I'm not sure it is 100% positive portrayal, because it does portray it as quite a sort of I don't know, quite a rigid, sort of old-fashioned kind of organisation.
Yeah, I think those aren't particularly negative.
Really
they're slightly negative. The positives outweigh the negatives. I mean, it's more personal, really, that Crawford's a bit of a shitheel manipulator.
But I think in doing that, it reveals, it kind of gives her a platform as well.
And it brings out the nature of her heroism, right?
Yes.
Which, I mean, Foster was really keen this was a female hero, not an imitation of a male hero. And I think it really worked.
Oh, yeah, completely. And,
there's no doubt she's the hero, but it's definitely not in the same way that a male protagonist would have approached it.
No, Dirty Harry had a completely different approach.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, just a bit. But just come back to Mark's point about the Catherine Martin and her ballsy attitude. When she leaves the house, we see that she's still clutching the dog and she won't let go of it. Which I thought was great.
I thought she should have just strangled it in front of him.
Oh no, I'd have been on Buffalo Bill's side if she'd hurt the dog.
Yeah. I can tell you what, that's interestingly, if we're classing this as a horror, generally you see an animal in a horror film, it's going to die. So I was very happy that the dog wasn't killed.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Chekhov's gun, an animal in a horror film, isn't it?
It really is.
A lot in older horror films, you usually just hear them whimper off in the distance.
Yeah,
and you know something bad's happened.
Like, what's it called? Queequeg?
Queequeg in X-Files. So the monster one, the lake monster one, wasn't it? Yeah,
that was horrific.
A lake monster at Queequeg. Spoiler. Oh no, we've already covered that episode. It's fine.
We have. And then we see sometime later at her FBI Academy graduation party, Stalin is congratulated by Crawford, who leaves straight after. And again, we get that intimation of that relationship. And she's got a phone call that she's waiting for. And it's from Lecter, who is at an airport in Bimini. And he assures her that he does not plan to pursue her and asks her to return the favour, which she, of course, says that she can't do. He then hangs up the phone after saying that he's having an old friend for dinner.
Yeah.
And
great line.
It's got the most amazing wig on ever.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That
Big
is
hat and sunglasses.
It may be,
and that white suit as well.
Now,
it looks like Elton John.
But have you ever? I don't know whether, but I always watch the final credits in this film because you can watch him disappear into the crowd.
Yeah, me too.
In that final shot, it's one single shot of him just blending into the background, and it's really creepy.
It's
following, of course, Chilton. Chilton's the person that's Crawford playing.
Yeah, good. I always think of he went to the same school as Wyndham Earle in terms of disguises because it's that kind of level of disguise, isn't it? It could have been an old biker or something like that.
Might as well have been the back end of an horse.
The back end of an horse, yeah. But yeah, it's a very satisfying ending.
It is. And that's it.
Yeah. So, should we sum up then? What do you reckon?
So, would you like to give your final thoughts and rating on the film?
Me or Paul?
Paul, do you want to go first?
Thank you very much. Well, I think it's a 10 out of 10 for me. I think it's a classic of the 90s. And just one of the best examples of that, the sort of, I suppose if you want to put it in its own genre, that sort of horror thriller genre that has ever been made. The performances are amazing. The direction is great. Visually, it's pretty stunning as well. And the pace just doesn't slow down as well. It's so well measured as a film. That even the quiet moments move along pretty pacily. And I think it's probably my favourite of the Hannibal Lecter films, closely followed by Manhunter. But I think Silence of the Lambs is a modern classic.
Awesome. And Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I give it a 10 out of 10 too. Now, for me, it's not it's somewhere between 9 and 10, but I favour the 10. It's not absolutely brilliant, but it's pretty damn close. I think the only real issue I have really is the underwriting of her friend, who appears to be significant and there's supposed to be an emotional connection, but it's not established well at all in this film. That's my bad points. The good points is it's just really well put together film. Jonathan Demme and the screenwriter put together something really great here and just cast brilliantly. All the decisions made seem to work really well. It has got some silly bits, like the cage in the middle of the room, but in terms of which intellectually are kind of goofy, but in terms of cinema, very entertaining. I think there was great acting here with certainly Foster and Hopkins, but also Ted Levine did a really great job, and he often gets forgotten when this film's talked about, but man, this is a great role. He is a proper decent sort of bad guy in this, but he'll get overshadowed in that by Hopkins. So very solid film for me. Yes, like this one, and yeah, I agree with Paul here that this is the best Hannibal Lecter film, followed closely by Manhunter.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with everything you both said. I think that the film, like I said, is one of the best, if not actually the top of my list of adaptations from book to screen. And I think that I would personally class this as horror, a subgenre of horror. And I'm really glad that it got the recognition that it deserved in terms of the Academy Awards and such. And from the performances, everything. But coming back to Scully, I know that this film was used in terms of promoting female roles within the FBI, in particular law enforcement, and it caused a great drive in applications from women after this came out. And I think that was also the case with Scully as well, when the X-Files really kicked into gear. So, in terms of the X-Files, you can see the influence. It's right up there for me. And in terms of the film itself...
Sorry, can I just... We didn't actually mention much about the X-Files. Could I just butt in with some X-Files stuff just before you finish? Because we are, an X-Files podcast. The DNA of this film really runs through the early series of the X-Files a lot. I've referenced a few already with Eve, Beyond the Sea. The Donny Faster episode, Irresistible, has definitely got a touch of it. There's an episode called Too Shy, where a man is contacting lonely women and sort of using them for his purposes, which are a bit weird, to say the least. And also,
doesn't he absorb their facts?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. There's an episode with Jewel State from Firefly, where she's a schoolgirl that's been abducted, which is super dark. And there's also an episode called Grotesque, which is really riffing on the fact that using your powers of deduction to think like a criminal can turn you towards madness, which I think is an interesting episode. So this is just some of the early ones that we've already covered. But I mean, Silence of the Lambs really does. There's not just the fact that it's like a female agent. It's like things like the endemic sexism, the constant autopsy scenes, and stuff like that. It's just. The X-Files owes a lot to this film. I think this is probably the most significant film in terms of influences on the X-Files.
Yeah, Mulder's originally sold as a behavioural science guy, isn't he?
Yeah,
with
the
FBI.
Yeah.
So you get to hear that he brought down some famous serial killer before he started on the X-Files.
That's right. Yeah, and the episode I mentioned, Grotesque, explores this whole. If you go so far into this, can you become one of these people? And it kind of suggests that Mulder might be. It's an interesting episode, sort of touching on that side of things.
Is it Pusher, the other one where I can't remember what, Kitsunagari, the second Pusher episode, where he goes into, he has to go into prison and sort of face off with the guy, and then he escapes.
I think so. I haven't seen that one in a long time, so I can't remember the details. But yeah, I mean, it's throughout. There's constant references to it. I think there's one episode where he actually calls Scully Clarice, as a joke. I do remember that. Yeah. Sorry, Becky, I interrupted you right in the middle, but I just thought it was worth just bringing those last points in. I should have done it in my bit. Sorry.
No, just to add again that this would be a 10 for me, as would Manhunter. They're both very different films, but aside from the very minimal flaws I think that we've pointed out, I think this would have to be a 10, and I can't wait to watch it again and see the Charlie's Angels pose.
This has ruined the film for me. This is now. I mean, I'm never going to be able to watch it again. You know.
I'm going to find the picture because it will be online somewhere and post it on your Facebook page.
Oh, nice. So we all rate this one 10 out of 10. So nice solid start. I'm glad we got to this film. It's been a real pleasure to watch it again and discuss it. So let's wind it up here. So I just want to thank, Becky did most of the hosting. Thank you, Becky, for sort of driving this one, getting and putting up with us. And thank you, Paul, for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I hope you've enjoyed this as much as we have.
Yeah.
And, thanks for putting up with us. I have to thank everyone for putting up with me. So until next time on the X-Files, remember, they're watching.
I